branding over. Hashtag challenge. But I have been receiving a lot of inquiries from my friends. Yeah, they have all been asking me to look into TikTok. Yeah, it is as good. But I think the challenge is they don't understand it. So in terms of the reporting and all this is
Shall we mic test or anything?
so let me get in touch with you.
Yes.
Okay,
then we can talk
Eugene
about
mic test. Can?
it. Jace is here. Jace from Creative at Work. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Eugene from IMS.
Yeah.
IMSEOK. What does that mean? Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
IMSEOK.
Ben from Smiley Apple.
That's fine.
All this is off when you
So what's
Okay.
your handle? What's your Instagram handle? Oh, just okay.
Yeah, mine
okay.
is imsyoking.com.
I see.
But cannot say .com, so just
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, hi Eugene, imsyoking. Mic test.
This is Jace from Creative at Work. Can you hear me? Mic test.
Ben is Smiley Apple.
This is Junior. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise of the Gig Economy.
No lah, that one got the black
Wrapping.
Okay.
A very good
Okay.
morning, and thank each and every one of you for joining us on a beautiful Saturday morning. This is the first of 3 panel sessions today, where this weekend anchors fulfilling work in the entire 27 different panel sessions that we're having. Yeah. So today, I'm very happy to be introducing my wonderful panelists. And today's title is really the rise of the gig economy, specifically what that means to you. Because I do have people telling me, Julia, gig means what? Nah? So do type in your questions throughout and we will be answering them as we go along. Yeah. So the first panelist on my extreme right will be Eugene. He is known as I am SEO King, a digital specialist, right? That's and I think your title says it all. I am SEO King lah, so you all know whom to look for. And then we have the very lovely Jace Tam, who is the co-founder of Creatives at Work, which is an agency that basically starts freelancing. How many years ago, Jace?
Well, we started in 2012, so it has been we are going to our 10th year anniversary soon.
10-year anniversary soon. Yeah. And then we have the smiling afro. So typically, you all know him as the smiling afro. His hair is real, 100% real.
100%.
And just like he entirely is. And his real name is Benjamin Byrne, yeah? So I think each of these 3 persons were selected because of the different industries and the different experiences they will be bringing to this entire panel session. And with that, let's start, okay? And you all would know me, the founder of Mumspace, right, Junior? So, yeah, so if we were to start, right, I think I want to talk about what's the definition of the gig economy. So Eugene, how would you explain the gig economy to a stay-at-home mother? You know, someone who is like thinking of coming out by herself?
Well, I think for a gig economy, it's basically in the most simplest definition, it will be make money online. But however, this industry has been quite spoiled by a lot of people. So that is also one of the reasons why I kind of came out to teach what is the proper way to set up website and things like that. So with making money online comes the flexibility of time whereby you can accept gigs. In its simplest form, gigs can be defined as doing design for companies, whether it is social media, doing a poster, doing an event poster, doing some promotions, right? So in essence, gig economy is something that a mom can plan her time to do certain gigs when her baby is sleeping. You know, that is like, oh, finally, you know, there's some peace. Maybe I can do some stuff, you know. Yeah, so basically it's something like that. And as we go into the conversation, I'm very happy to have my fellow panelists. So for me, I'm more the teaching of digital marketing and stuff like that. We have wonderful Jace here beside me, Creatives at Work. She's where the community is, because mom doing this alone, she's not sure certain thing, and that's where communities come in to really rally around you and support you. And you know, our smiling afro.
Yeah, I'm a proud mother also. Yeah.
He looks
Just
like a mother, but he basically comes with it, like, you know, like the content marketing bit and all that, which is important. Yeah.
Actually, you brought up a very important point that I want to focus on. I think when we talk about the gig economy, typically there's 2, right? The mom who wants to sell my own things online, whether it's my own home baking stuff, but the other one, right, where I am pitching to, so then for this, I'm my own employer. But for this, right, I am actually being employed by either a company or by someone else. So I think these 2 are very, very different, yeah? So gig would really be the project work. It is literally like once the project is over, it's over. Just similar to this summit, right? This summit lasts for 3 weekends, and then once it's over, Mumspace will still be around, but the summit is on recording, yeah, something like that. And Jace, if you will explain, right, what is the gig economy probably to a working mother? How is it relevant? Let's say I have a full-time job. How is it relevant for me?
Thanks a lot. Hi everyone, I'm Jace. Thank you, Eugene, for the promotions. Just on record, I never pay him. So it's really come from the bottom of his heart. But anyway, hi everyone, I'm Jace. I'm from Creatives at Work. Just a little bit of background for those who doesn't know us, right? Why we are doing this and why Junior actually asked the question and pointed at me. So basically, Creative at Work, we are a network of creative media freelancers. So basically, we are in the job, we're in the placement positions where we actually help freelancers to source for job opportunities with clients and also doing project management for our clients. So going back to Jonah's question about the gig economy, and I think Eugene has done a very good job in terms of explaining what it is. So I guess if everyone probably by now know a little bit about what gig economy is and how it functions, short-term job, very specific deliverable base, right? But for us, I think I don't really see this, is this a gig economy, is this freelance economy and all this, right? So those are just terms, that you just Google and you'll probably find out a lot of literature on that. But I think for us, really, it's more of an evolution of jobs, right? So going back to working mom, what does this mean, right? So I think if you look at how technology advances, and actually we don't really need to look very far away, over the last 2 years, what happened to us, right? The transformation that every one of us is going through, whether it's our personal life, in our work, in the way that we deal with people, are just tremendous, right? It just kind of changed overnight, right? How things are being done, how things are to be conducted. So to me, I think what actually is installed for probably working mothers, even stay-at-home mother, is really how do you take control over what you want to do for your career, right? Especially for working mothers, right? I think taking control, taking accountability of what you want to do, where you want to be, how you want to do it is actually the empowerment that the gig economy / freelance economy, future economy actually gave, empowered to each one individual in their own career path.
Actually, you brought a good point, right? Like right now, right? After a mom, after working, right? She's tired and all that, but she can just get on a Zoom call and find out what her freelance clients need, right? So it's like the technology is just there.
But of course, I must say it's also a balancing act, right? Because a lot of people also come and complain to me, I have Zoom back to back, right? But then how do I manage it, right? Because I need to take time off and so on. So I think it goes back to taking control of your own life as well, right? Knowing when not to be burnt out, right? Knowing what is how to organize your work around your life so that it doesn't get blurred, right? In that sense.
And actually, with what you're saying, right, I want to point that actually this gig economy, we had many terms for it in the past, right? Whether it's contract work or freelancing work. It's just that I think with this new term that's coined, this gig economy, it gives a certain definition and boundary to for a lot of people to understand the nature how it is. So instead of 9 to 5 and probably 1 year, now it's very much shorter project basis.
Yeah.
And I think why I brought it up for working moms is while a working mom may have a full-time job, we can also begin to do our side hustle, so to speak, right? I know of a lot of moms who say, Junior, my side gig is giving me more income than my full-time job. And it's a very good transition because with that, right, they are exploring, are my skill sets good enough to actually be paid for that? Yeah. So moms, that is one angle for you. And then now with you, Ben, right?
Yes.
How would you make the gig economy conversation relevant to the millennial? So, for the individual who say, I don't want to get good grades. I just want to come out and work soon.
Right. So, yes, hi guys. My name is Ben again. I'm the Smiling Afro. Basically, I'm a content creator and I run my own business, creating content for clients, mainly for marketing. And yeah, so I've been actually before this year, I never used the word gig economy. I only found out about the word gig economy this year. But I've always said freelance. I mean, everyone understood it's just freelance, right? Contract work and contract basis. But yeah, I guess for how I make the conversation relevant to millennial is basically actually what I've been telling a lot of my friends or a lot of my young people that I meet, right? It's like, well, do you have a skill, right? Do you have a skill that you can sell? Or, like whether it's creating something, it's baking, it's cooking, it's designing, it's drawing. Do you have a skill? Then I think it's a waste if you do not market it or use it to gain income, right? So same for anybody, right? Mothers or not, right? If you have a skill that you have a bit of time that you can use to produce something through it for other people, fellow humans, right? Why not? Just use it and earn some money from it. It can be as simple as sewing, right?
And
Yeah.
and I think it's so different because in the yesteryears,
Yeah.
we used to flip the papers and then you would have to go for employment. You know, the entire, how do I say, employment process was a lot longer. But today, literally, like what you say, if I have a skill set, I just post my cookies
Yeah.
or my portfolio, whether if I'm an artist, online, and immediately I
Yeah.
connect, right? The internet has really connected the buyer, the seller, so seamlessly.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, I think it's really the rise of the entrepreneur,
Yeah.
where increasingly, right, there's an encouragement of creativity, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So Eugene, will you be able to share, right? For many of us, we are used to employment, the security, the stability, the same job description. But when we talk about the gig economy or an entrepreneur, what is one mindset shift we need to start to embrace and adopt?
I think this is a very interesting topic because it's very close to my heart. Because last time when I was employed, I decided to kind of just resign based on the fact that I've only got a $5,000 project. And I was back then, I was working in NCS as a programmer. And I got a project for like a student management system for 5K. And then I just tendered the resignation, not having a solid plan, not having future customers. It's only this customer. So I would say it's resilience. That's the main thing, because you can plan whatever you want, but things sometimes doesn't happen the way
But
you want.
what made you resign? You only had one gig for 5,000 for 1 month or for quite a few months?
It was just a one-off
A
5K.
one-off. So
Okay.
what were you like? You know, you didn't have responsibilities because today you are a father of two, right?
Yeah.
And what made you like, decide to give up? Were you upset, not very happy in your job, or?
I guess it's more about wanting more fulfillment, where I thought that running your own business can. So here are some of the points that I learned, right? I actually took a very big risk to resign. So, I mean, like having said, come back to the earlier conversation of posting your social media on, posting your cookies on social media, right? I mean, if you are working full time and you want to get into this cookie business, what you can do is like social media really is an amazing opportunity where you can just post on social media. If you don't get the result, never mind, okay, let's move on, But if you get the result, then you give some sampling and all that, then you can kind of like sense the market. What I didn't do was I didn't sense the market. I didn't plan my business well, and I had no network. So on hindsight, these three things could have done better, right? But then, having said that, I ran and moved and did my business for 9 years, not having a plan.
So from that one $5,000 gig,
Yes.
and then after you completed that, you
Yes.
got another and another and another.
Not immediate. So it was like the $5,000 you were doing for 8 months for 5,000. Then you have another second. So looking on hindsight, in the safety of employment, whatever that you feel your passion is, as what Ben shared, many ways in which you can make money. But I think what you can do is you can simply use social media to test your idea, right? And basically, we need to have a response. And also, having said that, being part of a community helps, like what Jace was sharing. You've got a community of designers, and then you realize that web design I only charge $300, whereas
By the way,
it should
not
be
only
like-
just designers, we have
Yeah.
writers, we
Yeah,
have
correct,
videographers,
correct.
content creators,
Yes,
etc.
yes. So it's an amazing community that she has built over time.
Thanks.
I guess having a community helps, because you will realize that you're not alone, because entrepreneur journey is like quite a struggle, if you put it right.
I love what you share about you starting out alone, and you literally were in the ocean swimming, and you are a survivor, right? And
Yes.
and from your experience, thank you for being so humble and authentically sharing it with us, so that we don't have to go that route, right? So Jace, I want to ask you, right? For some stay-at-home moms or transitioning moms, stay at home for so many years now, the kids are older, and I want to begin to come out. What are certain skill sets that I can begin to acquire to be relevant in today's gig economy?
Okay, thank you so much, Jonas, for your question, and Eugene brought out all the points, right? So I think all the points that Eugene brought out are very relevant. It's something that I think for a stay-home mom, if you want to start taking on gig or you want to start coming out, right? I think those are the very important questions that you should ask yourself. right? I think Benjamin also mentioned, right, about what is the valuable skill sets that you have. So I think it does take some time for you to discover that, right? But it's a worthwhile effort, right? So what we usually actually share with in our workshops with the schools and all this, right, is really, take a moment, right? Sit down and think about your skill sets, right? What do you enjoy doing? Right? There is no point pushing you to do something, even if, let's say, like what Eugene mentioned, digital marketing is important, but you have no interest at all, absolutely no interest at all, and you still force yourself to do it, right? So that's not going to work. So the best point is to take a look, understand yourself. I would say understanding yourself is very important. Know what are the things that you enjoy doing, right? Do you like to write? Do you like to design? Do you like to daydream? What do you like to do, right? And then, like what Eugene mentioned, right? Once you list down at least 5 skills that you think you can convince someone to pay you to do that job for them, right? Then you should test the market, right? And with all the digital platforms, social media platform out there right now, there's really no reason for anyone to say, oh, I can't find anyone to test it on, right? You can set out your own blog, set out your own website, go to LinkedIn, try to connect with people, go back to your old friends. And Benjamin was saying, right, some of the referral comes from friends that he has never met for 10 years, right? So all these are connection, like what Eugene mentioned, is important. Think about, 5 lists of skill sets that you think people will pay you for. Test it with whatever network that you have. Then lastly, build connection, build relationship, build trust. So I think for anyone who actually want to survive, right? I think all of us here has been more than 5 years into this, right? So we all know trust and reputation are the single most important things that you want to build up for yourself if you want to build a sustainable and rewarding freelance career. Right? But yet it is something that takes long time to build up, but just need you to do 1 or 2 things wrong, and that's it. Your whole reputation is gone. So these are some of the considerations that I think you need to think about this seriously, right? And of course, at the end of the day, one of the things that I would also mention, right, that a lot of people actually didn't really think about it when they jumped into it, right, was really the money management part of it, especially for the millennials and the young people, right? They always say, oh, I have this skill set, I want to be a director, right? I want to set up, I want to do a 1 million feature film, right, on this and this and this. But like what Benjamin will probably share with you as well, it is so difficult to make film in Singapore. So even if you're passionate about it, I think the question that you then need to ask yourself is, can it make money, right? And how are you going to survive during the ups and downs? Like Eugene mentioned, right, 8 months, a 5K project. How do you think that has worked out? Actually, if you break it down in monetary sense, right, it doesn't work out at all. $5,000 for 8 months of your effort, right? Actually, it's a project that you shouldn't even start, actually, if you look back at it. But of course, if it's something that you do on a gig, it's something that you just want to try out, then fine, right? But if it's a sustainable, you can't make it in a sustainable career with a 5,000 job for 8 months. So you really need to think about how much money you need, right, to actually get started, how long you can survive without making a single cent, right? But yet can tong for at least 8 months until the next project comes in. So I think all these are very valid questions, and a lot of the people tend to forget. Actually, making money is the most important thing you want to think about.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jace. I love how practical you bring the angle in, right? And I think in today's economy, in entrepreneur terms, they have this word called iteration, where even if my first, my first service or product is not yet at the best, just put it out, just offer, because it's only when I get feedback, it's then when I know, oh, I should tweak this a bit, or this one sells, this one, even though I think it's my best cookie, nobody wants, for example, because it's no longer personal about what you think, it's really about feedback that we get from the market forces, and allow demand to tell us what they value and how much they will pay. And then everything else can tweak along the way, right? Whether the price or whether the bundle and how it looks. But would I be right to say that the first thing is really to be comfortable to put yourself out, because you can be inside the kitchen creating the best things, the whole family smell the wonderful aroma, but if it's not out, no money come in. So then it's not considered a business if there is no money, right? That's one of the basics.
So on this point, right, there is, I just feel very tickled to share this point, right? When we walk past the famous Amos, they always have a sign there, free smell.
Yes.
Right? And that's exactly what it is, right? You need to let people know what you are doing, right? And I'm sure Ben will share more. I mean, he's doing a lot of content and all that, which is relevant.
Yes.
I mean, I'll add to that. Like, honestly, before I started my content creation business, I've been making videos and content for about 10 years. But honestly, a lot of the content is just in my computer, because I was just too afraid to put it on social media, to put myself out there because of criticism, or people have to comment their own 5 cent, 10 cent on my own writing, right? But it was only until I decided, like about 3.5 years ago, that you know what, this is my skill, and I really want to make something out of it. Then I have to, take the courage and start properly posting my content online. And yeah, it's always going to be difficult at the beginning, right? But if you don't start somewhere, then you can never get anywhere, right?
And I love what you're sharing, and I want to bring this because I do know you, right?
Yeah.
I think Ben, right, is someone who struggled initially even with acceptance. And I think that's where the conversation I want to bring in, where a lot of millennials today, they have something, but they're unsure, right? I mean, we are all never sure. And then because the uncertainty sort of like holds us back, are you sure people will want? Is the market ready? I don't think there's a niche. And then we doubt and second guess ourselves so much that years go by. But you chose to... Yours was humor, right? Something that you enjoy is humor. And people really don't know. But what was that pivotal point for you where you were like, let's just put it out. Let's transfer the content in my laptop out and get feedback.
Right, so the big thing was I've been wanting to do it for years, right? But it's like I was, in school, I was doing university, I was like still working around freelance. And so there was no pushing factor, to be honest, right? But once I finished uni, and I realized I was trusted into the working world proper, right? Proper. Although I've been doing freelance, but it's always there, I still in school, okay.
Study was your main job.
Yeah, this is just pocket money. But when I realized, oh no, I really need to start thinking about income and proper career path, right? So that was the pushing factor, to be honest. That was a kicking factor to like, all right, it's time for you to man up, Ben, and just do something about your skill set. And that's when, of course I had to take a week and a couple of weeks to actually meditate and say, you know what, once I'm out there, I'm out there. My content is in the media world, it's going to be there forever, and people are forever going to see me as this, and I must be ready for it. Like, I'm ready to accept that, that I will make some videos that I'm not proud of, but I should be proud of my work nonetheless. And that's what I respect, even with other content creators or freelancers or, people in the gig economy. Like, not everything they do is 100% great, but if they can still be proud of what they do and learn to grow, then
I love what you share about taking that 1 week to meditate and to actually be internally prepared for potential backlash or haters. Because I think sometimes, right, people are not prepared. They think everything they post out will be like the family environment. Oh, very good, very positive. And then they put something out and then somebody say, ayo. And then they, So I think that mental preparedness that you did on yourself is remarkable because it shows me two things, right? Number one, that you are in for the long haul. It's not just going out to test, but for you, you were prepared. I'm going to put myself out. Like me or hate me, this is me, right? And then the second one is, and I'm going to be here for the long haul, and I'm going to hone my craft. So I think in just burning the bridges, so to speak, you don't give yourself a back road in that sense, right? And so you are all in. And the attitude is really what makes the difference, right? Compared to when I'm straddling both boats. And then the mindset could be, if this one failed, I still got another one. And so I'm never fully vested in my gig. So I
actually,
love that.
Ben, imagine you started a YouTube channel 10 years ago before that content. Today you'll be a Mr. Beast, man.
Maybe, right?
Probably.
No, still not too late,
Because, and actually for those of you who don't know, I want to say this. While we may not have started on YouTube, I mean, Ryan, right, this 7 years old, he was 6 when he started, earning 12, 15 million a year just because he was on YouTube early. That's all. That's the power of first mover advantage. So Ben here, I know him. On TikTok, you have more than what? 100,000 or 120 followers. So I think there will always be different platforms. YouTube is one. Instagram is another, but TikTok, right, is yet another one, right, that is up and coming. And the thing about TikTok is it caters to today's audience, the millennials especially, because it's so short. 15 to 30 seconds, cram as much information as you can, put it in, entertain people or create value.
So just to add on to Junior's point, I think right now the platforms are there, right? So there's no excuse to say that, I cannot reach 1 million people, right? So the world is literally flat, right? But I think what was holding a lot of people back in terms of that was really, do I want to put myself on camera? Right? Not everyone is comfortable to put themselves in front of camera and do the thing that they want to do. That's one. Second is, how do I sustain it, right? Because if you were to embark on this journey of building your reputation and your trust on social media platform, then it's not going to be a one-day effort. right? It's not going to even be 1 month effort. It's going to be in for the long haul, right? And then do I have enough content to sustain myself, right? To actually post every day. Actually, if you really want to gain traction fast, Benjamin will share with you, you need to post at least once a day, right? That is actually already very minimal already. It's not, you should post as much as possible, as many times as possible, so as to beat the algorithm. The algorithm recognize you, you'll be the top list of search when people is there, right? So I think those are things are there already. The problem is, or rather I won't say the problem, but of course the challenge is understanding what you want to do, right? And then altering it, tailoring it to your use, right? Because you don't want to be like a Ryan, right? And then get your kids to, hey, just play it. Then I'll just, you want to try to be a Ryan. You don't want to try to be other people. So I think on social media, very important is to be authentic. So I'm sure Benjamin is a funny person. That's why it comes true, right? So if you try to act, then that is very strange, right? Because people who know you would then, hey, she's not like that when I meet up with her.
Unless you're a very good actress.
Yes.
And that is a passion that,
Yep. That is a skill set actually.
So, and I love what you're saying, Jace, because I think very often we tend to copy people. Wow, his model works, so I think I should find a wig, and this is real, by the way. And then we find a wig and we try to copy the formula. But the formula that works for him, that works for Jace, that works for Eugene, may not work for Junior, because I am my own person with my own giftings, with my own passion and interest and following. And trust, right, that each of us will be able to connect to a tribe that connects. And I think the key word, Jace, is really authenticity. Because I think that is what people can sniff out so quickly. And people are not attracted to just a pretty Barbie doll anymore. People are attracted, am I right? I mean, people are attracted, right, to real things that we talk about, and especially we dare to be vulnerable. Because I think in this, to me, when I say in this VUCA age, what will arise more and more is the re-emergence of the need to truly connect. Even if I don't connect with you face to face, I can connect with what you're saying, what you stand for, your message.
I think the thing is also to recognize, right, that you cannot please everyone, right? There are people who hate you, there are people who love you, like Eugene loved me and tried to market for me, that kind of thing. So there'll be people who agree with you. So I think the thing is, before you start this, you really have to tell yourself, like what Benjamin mentioned, right? You just don't have to think about the negative things, right? Just accept that there will be people who doesn't like you for who you are, for what you are, and just accept it. You cannot get everyone to agree to you, but the main thing is whether you really want to do this, right? Because if you are going to give up halfway, then I said, then don't start, right? Because it just shows people that you're not persistent, you're not resilient, you doesn't understand it. So I think it's the thinking through that you need.
I like to say, I mean, together, like what you said, even Mother Teresa, even Gandhi, there are people, no matter how good your intentions are, people will always, do it for you. I think the main thing is do it for you. If that is your truth and your north, right, your true north, and something that you want to contribute to the world, just do that without looking back. And I think the lesser external validation we need, the easier it is for us to just keep going and going and going. Yeah.
Actually, Ben is the inspiration to us. So after today's session, both our hairstyle will look like him. Right?
Okay. Wait. But here's
maybe Eugene.
Maybe Eugene. Okay. But something that I want to say, right, is really it's not just some people are comfortable on camera. But I want to also say, if you are not, I know of successful people who just create videos, just video, and they put that out, and that's how they sell.
No, and you doesn't even need to put yourself there.
You
So
don't.
if you love piano, you just play piano, right? And then you just
Exactly.
see
Show your fingers, that's right.
Exactly.
Come to them, they will tell you 1,001 way to do it without showing your face.
Unless your finger's ugly, but that's besides the point, right? So
So I think at the end of it, right, it's really as we look at what people are doing, get maybe inspiration from that, but don't follow. Create something that is really about you, uniquely you, and it will change. I mean, the Mumspace logo last year was so different from what it is today, and I'm sure that we'll do many other iterations. But continue to put yourself out there, because the more you put yourself out there, the more feedback you get, and from there is where we then change. We just keep changing course.
Actually, just to add one point, right? Thank God for technology where we have social media scheduling tools. One shot we can shoot out to all the social media. Imagine we are in the time where we don't have all these tools. We have to post separately, and that's a chore, right?
So talking about tool, right? I think it's no longer just putting it up,
Yes.
right? It's actually understanding the algorithm. It's actually understanding how the platform works. It's actually understanding the people, your target audience, right? So each platform serves different demographics, right? So TikTok is actually for people who are from 17 years old to maybe 21, 22, and increasingly more, right? Facebook, now they call it the
Old people.
old social
Old
media, right?
people.
Only meant for PMEPs and older people, you know.
Yeah.
Then of course Instagram is the gap, right? Where you want to get the, so I think it's no longer just enough knowing that I need to post it out. It's about finding, and then another platform is LinkedIn, right? Which is a very powerful P2P tool. So I think it's about knowing
about
who
YouTube,
is your target audience.
YouTube seems to,
I think YouTube is very much video.
It's more long form lah.
Yeah, exactly. It's more long form.
too
right?
long form, right?
So unless you are into video lah, because if not, then you will not create enough content.
Yeah.
And then they even have Clubhouse.
Yeah,
Oh,
Clubhouse
that was
was
purely
audio-based.
audio.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's Twitter as well, but
Yeah.
I think for Singapore, I mean, okay,
Twitter
then
we
the
don't do a
thing
lot.
is,
It's
correct,
the
we don't do
market
a lot.
that
It's
we
the
want to
market,
reach out to.
correct.
Yes,
It's the
yes.
market, it's your target audience, it's who you want to reach out to, right? And how you want to speak to those people, right?
Okay, so now I have a question for us. How much can I earn from the gig economy, right? I mean, at the end of it, so
Okay,
Eugene,
not much, guys. Yeah, so no, I won't be here. No, I'm just kidding.
okay, so Eugene, if I were to ask you, right, because I think each of you come from very
Yeah.
different angles. So
Yeah.
for yours, right, what kind of income can I expect if I'm just starting out? Probably a particular skill set, like yours is search engine optimization. Yeah, how much?
Actually, I always love this question, and I always share this question when freelancers ask me, because it's really about your positioning. Okay, so let me qualify that. So if let's say Junior, you know, approach me how to do website and all that. So I will churn out a quotation to you, and my quotation is from a Eugene Tan. So if my quotation is from a Eugene Tan, how much can I charge you? $500, $600 for a website? Because I'm seen and perceived as a
Sole proprietor, individual.
as an individual, as a freelancer, not even a sole proprietor. So if let's say you guys are serious in really doing the gig, what you can do is you can form a sole proprietor company, and you can go to any bank like Maybank, you know, OCBC and all that, get a company account. Then now my quotation to you is ABC Digital, right? ABC Digital, I can afford to charge website 2005. So same
Five
effort.
times.
Yeah, same effort. One is perceived as lower because I am issuing the quotation to you as Eugene Tan, right? So this is a valuable tip to all our mummies, right? So if you really want to do it, even if you're not sure, just try to set up like a sole proprietor. At the end of the day, you just do very simple accounting. And most of the time when you are just starting out, you will just declare that your company is not making money because you are doing very little gigs to begin with, right?
I rush listening to this.
That's why.
But generally, right?
Not true, okay? Yeah, people who make money pay taxes.
Yeah, definitely, right? No, but seriously,
You pay
right?
your tax.
Especially when you are busy at work and you're just starting out, and like 1 year, 1 month you just do one gig. Of course, you have to do a proper accounting, but chances are you are not making money in the first year, especially because you are starting out. You're not sure. Then you get involved in a community like this, and they say, "Hey, got job or not?" You know, something like that. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's my input.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I
You
just
go
want to
ahead.
add on to what Eugene mentioned, right? So I think at least for Singapore, two things that we will always tell our freelancers, don't forget, right? Even when you are starting out, you don't forget, right? The two government organizations that you must keep at the back of your mind. One is CPF, the other one is IRAS, right? So don't assume that just because you are individual, you don't need to pay tax. That's not
Yes,
true. Please
yes.
find out all the tax obligations and all this. Then another one is, of course, CPF, right? And don't assume that just because you're paying yourself, you don't need to pay CPF. So you still have to do medisure, right? Yeah, medisure contribution on this. So please, if you are actually going to embark on this journey, right, please check out those two organizations, which is very important for your own protections, and also, you know, just make sure that you don't run into the wrong side of the law lah.
And,
Yes,
and
definitely
honestly,
you got to balance the books lah. That's for sure.
And honestly, even MediShield, we are getting 4% interest rate on whatever we put in, and that's money for us to use. You know, even if we don't
And
see.
if you're millennial, right, you want to buy a house, right? If you don't have CPF, how do you buy a house? Right, so I think all these are very practical questions that you need to think about it. No matter what stage, whether you're stay-at-home mom, millennials, and all this, right, you need to think about your own protection of your company, protection of yourself, and also most importantly, protection of your families. Right, in the event anything happens, right, then what's going to happen, right? So I think all these are very valid questions that you need to think through before you actually jump into this.
Wonderful.
Sorry.
Thank you. And along when you talk about protection, the one thing that comes to mind is maybe sole proprietorship, right? The difference between LLP, limited liability, is that it's limited by the amount that you put in, you declare, right, in the company account. But sole proprietorship, they can come to me, my entire family house, even. So just understand these distinctions when you set up a company, because it makes a big difference, One wrong signature could cause you unnecessary issues.
So one of the
Yes,
questions that
P.
we got a lot is from freelancers or people who want to start doing freelancing, right? Is, do I necessarily have to set up a company? So the answer is no, right? It doesn't mean that you want to start being self-employed or you want to freelance. You have to set up a company with Accra. We're talking about formal business structure, right? But of course, we did it, or most people would do it eventually for a lot of reasons. For tax reason, because the tax is different, right? And then for security reason, for protection, for image, even like what Eugene mentioned, right? ABC web development charges more than Eugene Tan. So I think it's all this consideration why people set up a business structure, right? But it's not a necessary, because I get this question a lot, right? It doesn't mean that you want to start freelance means that you have, right? In Singapore, under the MOM directive, right, is you can freelance as an individual. So you are considered as a self-employed, right? The only thing is you need to ensure that you know your obligations, you know your liabilities, you know what you're putting yourself into when you choose that mode of business operations.
And along those lines, I want to ask you, because Creatives at Work is really not a marketplace, but an agency where you sort of like, the analogy I would give is as a tutor, as an agency, I get different tutors under me. So that is the equivalent of what you do, except that you have different freelancers under Creatives at Work. So can you share, is there a rate calculator when we talk about how much do I expect?
Okay, so I think going back to this question about, charging and all this, right? I think Eugene is very kind to give that example, but I think for me, right, I got asked that question a lot as well for freelancers, right? So I always throw it back to them with a question, right? Is that how can you convince someone to pay you for what you want to do, right? If you yourself are even not convinced that someone would pay me to do this, then why would another person trust you to do that, right? So I think those are very basic questions that you need to sort it out already yourself, and no one else can do it for you. You just have to do it for yourself, right? And going back to Junior's question about the rate calculator, if you go to our website, creativeatworks.asia, we have actually designed a rate calculator. But to be fair and to be transparent, right, we did that rate calculator really for fun of it, right? It's just to get our freelancers understand that, when you're calculating your rate, there's actually a lot of other factors that you need to put into considerations. But there is so many ways of calculating your rates, right? Our calculator is actually based on cost base. So basically is for you to actually identify what are some of the costs that you incur in running your business, right? And then, estimating how much you want to make in a year, and then break it down to the number of hours that you want to work in a year, right? And then we get that value, right, that you should be charging for every hour that you spend on working, right? So that is actually a very, I would say most calculator that you come across actually uses that format, which is what we call the cost-based method in terms of calculating your rates, right? But I think going beyond just cost base, there's actually other ways of doing it as well. Of course, there's a profit margin base, right? Basically, is when you get a project, you just estimate how much cost you need, and then you just top it up by 20%, right? So just use that as a profit margin. That's actually another way as well. But what actually we have been actually advocating in the last, I would say at least 5-6 years, right, is actually value-based pricing. So as a freelancer, when you first start out, probably you have no choice, right? You're going to start from whatever rates you consider. So market-based pricing is actually another method as well, right? But of course, market-based pricing is very subjective, right? So what is market rate, right? At the end of the day, if you look at it, it's what people is willing to pay you for what you do for them.
I guess it's really about the perceived value. Like a website is just a website, but who are you? How well positioned are you to bring across the website? That is perceived value. So just give an example. A website in the market can be as cheap as maybe 500, all the way to even 8 to 10,000.
If you go Fiverr, it's even cheaper than 500.
Yeah, perceived value.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
But actually, just to add on to what Eugene mentioned about the perceived value, I think it's a little bit more than that, right? Value-based pricing is really understanding the value that you bring to your clients, right? And it is not just on yourself, right? You could think about the perceived value of yourself, that I'm worth $100 an hour. But the test is, does anyone pay you $100 for your 1 hour?
That's
right?
right.
Does it
Yeah.
worth it? Right. So I think those are the things that you need to think about, and that's where I think eventually value-based pricing is going to be the main differentiating factor for freelancers, whether you make it or not.
And I think that's something that I want to point out too, because I think our education system, the reality is it doesn't prepare us for this value-based pricing kind of concept. Because very often, right, it's, how do I say, we are taught now, you get X amount for whatever, and this is your job scope. But I think as we switch into the gig economy, your job scope shifts, you know. In setting up a business, it's multiple skills that I need to either have or be willing to pay someone either on Fiverr or to barter with someone. Sometimes it's not just about money, but in collaboration, it could be, hey, Jace, your skill set is making a website. You do a website for me, but let me create video for you, for example. And then with Eugene, can you do search optimization for me? And then I will create the video for you. So I think in this kind of collaborative mindset is how we can create value, and it's not just measured in money, right? It can be barter as we start.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good way. So I will just add on to it, right? I think barter is a good way to go for anyone who just starting out, right? So in exchange, you know, for the service. And actually, you know, even if we look into the centuries, right, people started with that. Businesses started with that, right? It all started with bartering before it turns into cash-based, right? But I think what I want to bring this discussion about value-based pricing a little bit more, right, is not also, I mean, it's important, right? It's the first step, right, about your skills and the value. But I think value stretches a little bit more than that. It's actually about accountability, and it's actually about not just the value, not just understanding the value you bring to your clients, but also how do you communicate that value to your clients' clients, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, businesses is very straightforward, right? Do I make money? Do I make enough sales, right? Can I make 2 times, 3 times revenue, right? So do you understand that part of the business transaction that your client is having, right? The conversation that your client is having with their clients, and how do you articulate that value, right? Do you actually even know, like, for example, I put out a social media post. I actually generate 2 times engagement than my average freelance digital marketer. Do you know that for a fact, right? Do you know that I'm actually the designer who, once I actually put my name to it, the design will sell by itself? Do you know that? Right. So my question is not only knowing the skills that you can bring, right, but you should take this a step further to also articulate what is the skill sets and quantify it, right? Quality, something that everyone cannot say. Like I cannot say, oh, Benjamin's this video is better than the other videos, right? But quantity, right? If I can show fact to say that, okay, these are my last 5 posts for my clients, all of them generate 100,000 impressions.
And I think it's about, it's also like what Jay shared about over time, trying to archive all the work that you do so that when you show the work to your future prospect, that value chain is already been built and established.
Yeah. So,
right?
so value-based pricing is like that, right? So if I know that I'm going to generate 100,000 impressions for you, right? Then what does the 100,000 impression cost to you, right? So if let's say the client said that, okay, actually 100,000 impression, I probably can convert a few, so you make about 10,000 for me, right? Then then I should not be based on the hour that I spend on doing your job. I should then be able to tell my client that, okay, that $10,000, I want 10%, I want 20%. Right? Because every time I do it for you, right, I create another $10,000 for you. So I want the 10% of that, right? And if I say that to Eugene, would you accept it? You will, right? You will not say, I don't want to pay you so much, I do it myself, right? But you don't have the credential to do it yourself.
Which is wonderful because you shift the conversation away from just give me fixed amount for this work, man hours, because we talk about in the gig economy, it could take me 5 minutes, to earn 5,000, but that is on me. That's the value that I created for me. So it's no longer measured by my man hours because in the employment, right, it's by man hours, right? Clock in, clock out. But today, right, it's measured in the value that I create for my client and my client's client. And when we talk about value, right, I want to shift the conversation to the problem that we solve, right? Because value is measured not just quantitatively, but also am I solving a problem, right? So, and before we go into that, Ben, I want to ask you, right? For someone who's just starting out, we talk about portfolio. I've got nothing to show. I've got no track record. I mean, it's great if I have a wonderful track record. How does someone who's just starting out begin to put together something that I could just start by earning a bit and then increase that?
So, well, I guess it starts with like, using social media. First things first, right? It's free, right? Use it for whatever skill set you have. Let's give an example, a designer, right? You love to draw, you're great at drawing, you're great at creating things, but you don't have any proven projects that you've done for other people. It's always for yourself. But I think you still can use social media to post your current whatever you've done for yourself, for example, to showcase that this is your skill. And then from there say, all right, I'm willing to I'm starting to really get serious and to making this a business. So your first few projects, you can maybe give like, all right, we just do a barter, like you said. I will draw something for you. Maybe you give me something in return, or I'm willing to do it for. I hate to say it, but yes, a lot of people, I think in the creative industry will say, okay, I'm willing to do the first 3 projects for free per se, to use that as proof that hey, I created this for clients.
Because and I think there's no shame in that.
Right.
Because even the opportunity to be able to say, hey, I have this brand as my ex-client. I mean, people don't need to know the transaction that happened, right? But it's opportunity that you gave me, and for me to then showcase my talent.
True. Especially when you're just starting, right? I mean, no one else needs to know that you did it for free.
Yes.
But you can say, hey, this is I did for X client or this client. And sometimes the client might be a well-known name, right? So it helps your case, right? But yeah, it's about, I guess, if you can afford it to do something like for free for the first few projects just to get your portfolio out there, then by all means, as a beginner or starting out, you should lah. Like that's what I did when I was younger, right? Starting out, I just did free hosting, I did free emceeing, I did free, I told my friends, don't worry, don't pay me, I will do it. I just want people to know that I can host. I can go up there, I'm not afraid of camera.
And I think, to be very frank, right, when you first start, there are so many skills that you haven't honed yourself, right? And then there are mistakes that we make. And I think the humility to put ourselves out there is something to be applauded. It's something that, instead of staying in the safe zone of never getting feedback, to put ourselves out there and then, hey, next time I want to improve on the way I look at the camera, my better side, things like that. Yeah. And then we give ourselves that space. There's no pressure, because I think very often when we charge people, then there's the expectation, right? Because I take your money,
Yeah. I think one thing I want to share is that, so I came from art school, right? And think about artists, let's put it this way, most of artists, we feel that everything we post out there has to be perfect. And that's what I realized from my classmates is a lot of them, they are very slow to start gigs because they're like, oh no, it's not perfect, or I can't do it because I don't think I can do it. I haven't reached that level yet. But I think I was blessed to adopt the fact that I told myself, hey, you know what, I realized that no, every year I'll just get better. Like if I look back at when I first started my business in 2018, sometimes I can't even look at the videos anymore. I'm like, oh, I used to do that. I was very happy with it. But yeah, in the end, this who I am, and I can see I've grown, and actually people will see my portfolio and say, Ben has grown, and people know that at least I'm a serious person, I'm serious business. I'm actually trying to become better and better, as opposed to everything just perfect, right?
So I think what Ben has brought out is like, how do you define freelancer? I mean, what kind of freelancers do you want to be, right? So usually the artist people, what we call them the artisan freelancers, right? So basically, it's really not about the money, but it's really about your work, right? How best you can do your work, right? So I think that's fine as well if you choose that as your mode of operations, right? Then of course, there's those what we call the pure freelancers, and then that's what I would say the focus of the discussion here, and then there's what we call the transition freelancers, right? People who actually want to just take freelancing for a while, but eventually will go back to the place, right? So for example, we work with a lot of creative writers, right? I know my creative writers, right? They always need to take this what they call time off, right? To actually, embrace themselves with nature, so that they grow their creativities, they become a better writer when they come back. Right? So I think there's actually different ways of running your freelance business, and actually, don't get wrong, I'm not trying to advocate one kind of freelancing pathway, right? There's actually 1,000 ways of doing it, right? Every ways will lead to Rome, right? In that sense, all roads lead to Rome. So it's really about yourself, right? And if you feel that you want to be an artist, you want to be an artisan freelancer, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But if you want to be a businessman like Ben, there's nothing wrong with it as well, right? So I think you just need to embrace who you are and how you want to do that.
Because I think different people are different. Some people, an additional 500 is wow, and I can only afford the time for 500, and I'm happy with that. So then we don't need to say, then I need to make 50,000. But likewise, if you're ambitious, go all the way, push yourself, test the limits of how much you can make. right? And then, because I think at the end of it, this is just one avenue for us to be really hone our personal skills and the value that we create. So bringing the conversation to problem solving, right? Because I think very often the one who solves the biggest problem will actually get remunerated the best. So Eugene, can you share a bit with us on how we can begin to switch that mindset as parents, because I think a lot of parents are listening in, so that we can begin to create opportunities for our children to start problem solving automatically now, so that next time it's not something that I need to consciously do, but in the quadrant, it's unconscious competence already, where people are like, oh, don't know how to do. Easily, they come up with so many creative ideas.
I think mainly the key to problem solving is this. A lot of people are not even problem aware to begin with.
Wonderful.
Right?
Yes.
And it is the process that especially when you are doing things for some time, you actually feel that your way of doing things is correct or things like that. So I think the thing about problem solving is we probably need to kind of take a step back and trying to identify where is the problem. And this is key, right? In terms of being able to identify the problem and coming in our consultancy with our client, either as a freelancer or either as a company, that we can now tell our client, I'm not offering you a problem of just solving you by providing you a website, but I'm providing a lead generation problem. Your problem begins with your business. You have a website, your website is not getting visitors, right? And it's not about just changing the website just because the previous vendor, the design and all this kind of thing. So I used to say, right, when clients tell me, oh, I want to shift this, shift that. So my answer to them is, do you want a very nice website that nobody visits, or do you want a website that has visitors, right? So I think the key step of problem identification is then we can create that value chain that Jace talked about, and then we can create all those creative content that Ben has talked about, the different type of formats. Then we can look at the scheduling to get the best engagement. Then we can look at the client branding, whether it's on point or something like that, right? So I guess for parents, the advice would be to let your child try as much as they want. So I used to kind of my girl loves to draw at a very young age. So we used to watch a particular YouTube video to achieve a particular drawing, right? And what we do is we will pause the video a few times and then we'll draw together. And I'm glad that I decided to do that years ahead in the early years. Today she's like drawing all those manga kind of level, which is yes, she has surpassed me, but I'm happy for her, right? Because I was there to kind of nurture the qualities at a young age. So I guess it's about also identifying what your kids like, right? From a parenting angle. Yeah. I'll stop here because this is not a parenting forum. But having a dimension that just adding a dimension to the earlier conversation where Ben said about building portfolio, that's an excellent sharing. But as a freelancer, a lot of things there's a slight blind spot that I personally found, which is also to build your database of testimonials. I've only started to build my database of testimonials in the last only 1.5 years, right? I've been around over 10 years, right? But I've only in the last 1.5 years built a testimonial. But I think testimonial is important to get that, to achieve that value chain as well.
And yes. I think that's very important because Jace talks about having your track record. Yes. But while a track record may say, hey, I got this amount of impressions for you, I'm very clear. Testimonials is the quality of it, right? Because different gigs may be different, right? But this is one other way of showing my then track record.
Yes.
So thank you, because I love what you say about problem aware. Most of us go through life not even aware of problems, then how to solve, right? So I think that's a very critical first step in starting that opening up our eyes to
Here's
looking.
The problem, right? Which I may share. that a lot of companies say, okay, I engage this guy as, web designer. This guy does SEO. This guy does like Facebook marketing for me. It's 3 or 4 different companies. And as a business owner, you are not that good in marketing, and you trust all these companies to run for you, and they run separate campaigns. That is the problem, right? A lot of SMEs are like that, they go for cheap and all that, and there's no integrated approach. And you can ask our dear content guy, right? If there's no integrated approach, today you talk about this, today you talk about that, then there's no consistency, right?
Just to plug in, that's where creative networks come in, right?
Yes.
So we have, we can get the freelancers to come in to help you to bring all this together under one house. But just want to add on to the problem solving part, right? I think it is really a mindset. I think Eugene has brought out a very good point about identifying the problems, being problem aware. I guess right now, I think a lot of us already know that it's going to be a very chaotic world ahead of us, right? Whether we like it or not, this is the new world. I think the challenge then is how do we prepare the younger generation, whether is it for parents or even for us, right? When we look out for freelancers, new freelancers, what are some of the attitudes, what are some of the qualities that we are looking in them. And I must say, unfortunately, problem solving doesn't come overnight, right? It's something that you just need to believe, right? That other being problem aware of what's going on, right? And you just need to believe and be confident, right? That you already have what you need to take, right, to embark on this journey. So all you need to do is to take the challenge as it comes. So I think the things with a lot of freelancers when they first started is not knowing what challenges that they will face eventually. But I would say that's not an excuse already, because if you don't, with Google, right, you just Google anything and everything, right? You can just Google the top 10 challenge every freelancer will face. And then there was 1,000 articles written on it. So there's really no reason for you to say, I don't know what I'm putting myself into. I don't know what the challenges. And to be frank, all the challenges are common challenges, right? We all make, the only difference is how do you react to it, right? Do you already make the preparation to prepare yourself for these challenges that you will face, right? Whether is it in the first year of your business, second year of the business, and third year of the business. And the thing is, the better you are at solving every challenges and the problem, the better you become, right? You become more successful, you become more confident, and you can tackle a bigger problem, right? And the problem grow even further. Every one of us will face problems, whether it's our personal life, corporate life, running our own business, right? But the challenge is really having that kind of mindset to tell yourself that you already put yourself there, you know what it is, right? So it's really about problem of tackling it, and actually this is where I think a community actually helps, right? So networking, community will actually help you to overcome this, because I've seen a lot of community, and of course, especially during the COVID period, right? Especially the first 3 months of circuit breaker, nobody knows what happened. And if you remember, for the creative industry, everything stopped. But then suddenly every gig got cancelled, right? Nobody can go out, everyone had to stay at home. So what happened? So this is where the community is even more important, right? So you can ask each other questions, you can actually look for projects to work with one another. When you have this community that that you can rely to, you just post any questions, someone will genuinely come on board and give you what may not be the best advice, but definitely something that someone is doing that, right? And the very fact that people respond to you, right, actually then suddenly you'll feel, so I'm not the only one who is having this problem. So thank God, luckily.
I think that's the importance of a culture, and the way I would liken is literally having as many hands and legs on the ground. Because instead of, I think the old way of doing business is individual, very protective, very competitive, me, I, myself, I win, everyone else. But as we move into the VUCA world, it's literally, we all don't know what's going to come, and the analogy that I would give, right, is when there was a tsunami, all the animals, prey and predator began to climb the same hill, because everyone realized, in it is together. The prey and predator is no more their enemy, the flood is. So I think if we can begin to shift our mindset to say, in today's VUCA world, it's not about you and me pitting against each other, but it's how we can collaborate. Because then someone someone is the eyes, the hands, the legs are, hey, there's an opportunity here, or hey, I found this, or be careful of that. And I think the larger we are part of a community, it's really the emotional journey together, where it's no longer just an individual doing what they do alone, but it's really sharing the entire experience, and joy is always multiplied when we share it. So in closing, right, Ben, I want to ask you, what is one advice you want to leave our audience with?
Don't be scared. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Like, I think that's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have like the journey of 1,000 miles, start with one step,
Yeah.
right? And if I don't take that one step, no matter how wobbly, shaky, or small, just put your first video out. Do that, right? Today,
Exactly.
whatever it is. And for you, Eugene, what's that one advice?
I guess the important thing of it all is to be confident in what you are doing. Because when you have the confidence and when you talk to people, your confidence will shine through. I just give you a short analogy. I've been doing training and all that. Got once that, I was, people told me to train for 50. When I came, I was shocked. Then I asked myself one question: Eugene, are you good at training people to set up website? And I said yes. And then my passion or my confidence took over. Yeah.
So passion.
Yes, passion,
Confidence,
yes.
right? Know your worth, know your value. Jace, one last advice?
Well, I would say don't regret it, lah, right? I have a lot of friends, who actually regretted, not doing certain things earlier, things like that. So I would say that if you are thinking about doing it, right, maybe you should not be listening to us. Don't think too much, lah. Just do it, right? So just don't regret, right? Just at least you try.
Wonderful.
Because if you don't try, you never know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So with that, you've heard, be confident, just do it, and don't live with what if, right? Because that's definitely not the way we want to live our lives.
Yeah.
So put yourself out there and see it as the entire learning experience for yourself. With that, I trust it was most insightful. Our next panel session is on branding. So we've just talked about gig, right? But how do you create your unique brand to stand out from all the noise and from everyone else? So as the next panel comes on, I will be handing you over to the beautiful Charlene, who will be giving away our prizes. And with that, see you soon. Bye.
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 Thank you, Junior. I hope that was a very powerful session for me. It was indeed for me. Today, we're going to give away some prizes kindly sponsored by our panelists. Eugene will be giving out the SEO class, which is a one-day class that is for you. So if you like this prize, key in SEO in the chat group. It's worth $500, this SEO certification class that's UK accredited. And for this, the other prize that we're giving is the Business of Freelancing book. It's worth $59.98. And comment book, if you like this book by Jace Tam, this book will be for you if you comment in the chat group. Book. All right, key in there. For the tonight, we're going to have a marketplace. Marketplace is going to be very fun because it's going to be a working mother's indulgence. You're going to have lots of flash deals, offers, even Christmas hampers by Engineer. We have Stabilio's prizes that's giving out. In fact, now we're going to give you one more bonus prize, which is by Stabilio. It is the Boss Desk set, which is worth $27. If you like to engage your children during the school holidays and you would like to win this set, key in Desk set and stand a chance to win that. Okay, we'll be getting ready for the next panel very shortly. But meanwhile, if you haven't also already, upgrade your passes to the VIP passes. We have 12 master classes coming up in the following year. And these classes will be in-depth knowledge and information shared by our experts. They're going to share more information, in-depth information, and you will definitely learn a lot from these sessions. It's just $68, but if you tune in tonight, you might win one of these prizes for free, including the VIP passes. So we go for a short break, and you will see the next panel very shortly.
A very good morning to each and every one of you. So this panel session is going to be very interesting because one of our panelists is got called away for an award in Malaysia. So he flew over. And hi, Roger.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
Roger.
It's great to see you online. So
Yes, great to see all of you.
And this is the first time we will be having this conversation this way, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I need the sound volume to be increased because on our side I
Okay.
can't quite hear Roger.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
It's a joy. So with that, thank you audience for being with us. Now we will be starting our second panel for the day, and the title is Creating Your Brand to Stand Out. What is your signature? Because I think we all know that we all have different signatures. Some are very small and they are comfortable. Some are bold, right? But whatever your signature is, tune in to discover yours. So with that, I want to introduce each of my panelists. Let's start with Roger. Roger is the president of the digital, the Chamber of Commerce, right? The Digital Chamber of Commerce in Singapore, Roger.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And you have like years of PR experience for different companies. So that's what we will tap into soon, okay?
Correct. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roger. And then we have the very lovely Pauline Teo. So a very familiar face. Pauline is the executive director of V8 Holdings.
8V.
8V Holdings.
Yes.
And 8V Holdings typically does investing, value investing for not just women, but I think for people at large. Yeah. And Pauline will be sharing a lot more how from an employee, she began to brand herself even like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, right? So I think that mindset is what we want to tap into to understand, okay? And then we have the very beautiful Cindy Tian. Cindy is a senior consultant with ImageWorks. And ImageWorks doesn't just do work on the outside, but it also helps us explore our inside. Am I right? So with that, right, I want to bring us into our conversation because branding is so critical, but yet many of us don't understand that. Yeah. So Roger, let's start with you. Having worked in a PR agency where branding is your core service, can you share with our audience why it is so critical is the word?
Okay, thanks, Junior. So maybe I just share a very simple logic for today. Today, per aspect, example, let's say you buy a product. Let's say you buy a household product. You can buy from a Tianmao, you can buy from a online store. So for the merchant, imagine number one, for the merchant itself, if what you're doing is like competing on price, then that doesn't make sense. But a branding stands you out. A branding represents your character, the product character. It represents the quality. So when people associate branding with trust, credibility, that's where there'll be repeat buying and people come back to you. So that's one very important aspect of it. So that's why I find branding is very important. So example, even Apple Watch or Apple phone, why you pay a premium for Apple? Because we associate with the value or even lifestyle of it. Why don't you buy a Xiaomi or example? It's not saying it's no good. So I think that's very important of branding. Branding also represent your characters in terms of personality or even your company business. So branding, in a way, it makes you target very clearly well customers, your audience itself. Okay, so that's in a general engineer. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roger. Because what you identify, right, is what I'm getting is literally branding is like my identity. So like Junior has a name, right? But branding for any business is literally like their identity, their branding, what they stand for. Yeah. So for you, Pauline, what does brand mean for you?
I totally agree what Roger has said. Really, it's about what we stand for. But one key thing that probably a lot of people may have missed out is branding is actually about the soul. Yeah, I will use this word. It's the SOUL, the soul of, like, for example, the soul of the company, the soul of the individual. So that's why the association comes in, which is the reason why if we talk about branding, we have to be very congruent. Yeah, what we say, what we mean, what we do really can be associated. Yeah, so that's the key thing. It just comes out like that. So it's just that soul, yeah, of someone or an organization.
I love what you share because yours goes so deep, where it's really not just about the outside superficial appearance, but it is an inside out projection of who I am. And if I haven't taken the inward journey, my branding at large, at best, would only be superficial or maybe a mold of what I have learned or copied. And yet it's so different when there's an inside out experience.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll be sharing more, right?
Yep, later on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pauline. And Cindy, right? Image work used to focus on the external appearance, and yet they have evolved, right, to also include the inner self.
Yes.
Is there something you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. And inward qualities is something that, we all treasure, right? And that really serves as the foundation of how we build our personal brand. Because if you don't know what are your inward qualities, then what is there to communicate? We don't want to have like a cookie cutter look or just, go very general with how people perceive you. So it's really going deeper, like what Roger has mentioned, the soul, like what Pauline has mentioned. So the thing we want to be very aware of is, when especially when you're new in the business and in a company, people don't know your inward qualities unless you communicate about it, unless people know you really well. So branding is really intentionally and strategically communicating your inward qualities a little bit more on the surface.
Wonderful.
So that's what we do.
Wonderful. And with that, right, I want to bring the conversation to personal branding, right? Well, who am I? What do I stand for? So Roger, given your work, you used to be in SPH. So that includes print, online, air, new media advertising. How is that now relevant for an individual today?
Okay. If the individual itself, maybe we can put a part into every year we see award branding. Example for personality, or we see some even for insurance company with a MDRT. So I think in terms of such branding itself, today, why people want to buy a product from a person who win awards, let's say in a Singapore Trust Award or Singapore ASME Award, because the whole branding be associated. Because say, okay, so I'm sure that because this guy has won award in the media, and media is the one that accredited on that basis itself. So that the whole trust and credibility is built up. So the whole media itself is reinforced and give people the confidence level itself. So in personal branding, I can give you another real life example. A real life example of personal branding is, let's say, in the past, I think for ladies who love spa, if you remember in the early 2000s, there's a spa who called Rustic Nirvana, all right, Rustic Nirvana. Okay, when Rustic Nirvana started in Cantonment Road itself, okay, I think in the beginning, not many people know. They try very hard on reaching out to old customers. When the founder Yvette, now Yvette also the head for the Singapore, I think the association for the whole spa industry itself. So the thing is that by then itself, people doesn't really associate it. But when the whole media endorsed on Yvette itself, when endorsed on Yvette treatment as good, as a healthy, because Yvette was really naturalistic, okay? So in this way, then after that, I share with you, after the endorsement from Channel News Asia on the Yvette's Rustic Nirvana Spa, the next 6 months, the spa is packed because credibility is there. So it's important because the media shall give a third-party endorsement from a very objective angle itself, and people trust that aspect. So personal branding with media itself, it works very well if you know how to use it properly. Okay, that will be from my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Roger, because what I'm getting is really the perception. And that is so critical because often I may be selling the best burger, but if nobody knows, guess who they go to? McDonald's, right? So, and the quality, even though my quality, real meat, not processed, but so what, right? So, with you, Pauline, yours is a very interesting story that I want to bring up, right? You created a niche for yourself in V8 from the start. 8V. I keep going in 8V, right?
Yes.
From the start,
Yes.
right? And can you share why pink is your signature color? Or when you talk about soulful branding, how did you get in touch with your soul?
Okay, so maybe it has to go back 11 years ago, and probably a lot of people didn't know. I mean, I think quite a number of you have seen me like in YouTube, Facebook, and I've been in cafes, people say, you're Pauline, I saw you in YouTube, So Well, people would know me in terms of investing, but a lot of people didn't know was I was actually a civil servant for 10 years and I know nothing about branding actually. So after I learned about investing, the first thing is I want to join the company and I want to, my first aim at the point of time after joining the company was to encourage more women to take charge of their financial health. Because when I attended the program, it was like, only 20-30%, but you know, most of my friends are like me, graduates, and we earn our own keep, you know, but why is it that women are not investing? So that was where I want to communicate something. You see, that's where branding comes in. I must make sure that there is someone, why is it women are not investing is because every time I saw all this CNBC, CNN or whatever, they are all men. Sad to say they are all men, like, you know, in the financial sector, right? And it's so boring and it's so like all logical. I mean, women are not, sorry, we are very drama, emotional. We love colors. That's why you can see today we are so colorful, right? Yeah, and we love pretty things. So that was where I said, how can I encourage women to really do it? I have to brand myself.
Yeah.
So I started with the color pink, like you mentioned, right? Because I know the men will not wear pink. So when I wear pink, I stand out. And then women will say, wow, and pink, if we in image, we know it's a friendly color. Yeah, so investing is not so intimidating. Yeah, and we can be friendly. Well, everyone knows money is important, but why is it we're not learning about money? So that was where I realized, and I'm a mother also. That's where I also come up with this multi-millionaire mom to make to let women know that, oh yeah, women, you know, a mother and an investor in pink in color. So all the association comes along. So it has to be congruent.
I so love the word you use, congruent. And you know, I'm just picturing a sea of men in black color or gray color suits, and then one boldly come out in pink. And proud to be me, because this is who I am. I don't need to be another man or to fit into the man's world, but I'm a woman. And proud of it, you know. And woman, it's time that we begin to invest because money is important. So let's multiply it such that our money works harder for ourselves, right? And boldly in pink. And I think it's also, how do I say, an inside out expression of who you are. So I think for someone else who may not want the light so much, they may have chosen a more subtle color, maybe white, you know, and it really doesn't matter. But what we are trying to put forth today is begin to discover what even the colors, right? Like even on our first weekend, Veronica was talking about the different colors. You know the color pink in our Mumspace logo? Pink is actually the color of giving. Actually, the different colors symbolizes different things. It's a very nurturing color, actually, the color of pink, because it's a blend of red and white. Yeah, so, but then the pink color also means that we also need to practice self-love, because sometimes we may overgive, you know, so there are two sides. So wonderful. Thank you, Pauline. And Cindy, how do we go on an inward journey? Because for many people, especially in Singapore, we've been taught after education, you know, 20 years of education, come out and work already. The inward journey of self-discovery is a luxury that not many of us have time to embark on. Any shortcut, expressway tip on how we can discover who I am? Who am I uniquely from the inside?
The answer is yes and no. No meaning that you can't get it in one day.
Of course.
Yes meaning there is a process to it, and if you work with a coach, of course that person will be able to help you a little bit more. But typically when we coach or we do our trainings, we would. So the thing is this, you know, when you just ask a random person like what you stand for, a lot of people have not really made time to think about it. And it's really the ability to define who you are and your identity, right? So what I've noticed is that giving people a list of words for a start helps with that. So at ImageWorks, we call that brand attributes. So we give them a list of brand attributes, and then we say, if you need to communicate about your brand, what would be the 3 to 5 words that you would choose from this list? And the reason why we give them those words is because we don't want them to just think of words like friendly and professional, because it doesn't say very much. When you tell people you're friendly and professional, right, we are more than that. So one little tip I usually give my clients is to think about someone that inspires you. So for example, if we think about, okay, women empowerment, okay, think about someone like Michelle Obama. She represents passion, fun, empowerment. If she inspires you, and we typically like people like ourselves, so maybe you want to start developing that bit of you, the empowerment part. Or you could think of somebody like our late Mr. LKY. His brand attributes would be courage, commitment, visionary. So thinking about how your brand attributes is helping you contribute to the world. So go deeper into your core values. It's a self-awareness journey, and it absolutely takes time. It's not a one-day process, but it's something that you will want to spend time doing it. The other thing I would always say is, after you've sort of identified those 3 to 5 words, go to somebody you trust and respect and ask them, do you agree that these words represent me? If they say, yes, 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 this is you, then you kind of know that you've nailed it. If they say, no leh, then you kind of know that, oh, maybe I'm lying to myself or I'm delusional or something like that. So get a bit of feedback from someone you trust. And then after that, you could work with a personal brand coach to then help you to clarify those brand attributes and then communicate those brand attributes on the different channels of your marketing and communications. So this is the process I would actually take them through.
I love this brand attribute exercise because I think you have like effectively just shortened the entire process. And I think very often we do not do the exercise, and our vocabulary tends to be limited by what we know, right? But I love the back testing and just checking with someone. Pauline, would you say that junior is fun? And and just asking and bold. And yes, because feedback, because what I think in my own head is within my own head.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing about checking in with someone is then she said, no, I think controversial suits you better, because the feedback that we get, because our friends sometimes see our blind spots that we don't see ourselves, and their feedback, right, would really be holistic as we create a brand that is really unique.
So that's the reason why I mentioned about soul, right? Why a lot of people can't do this so-called personal branding well. I think personal branding is not just for entrepreneurs. It's actually for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, let's say even if I'm an employee, I have to got a personal branding so that my boss know what I stand for. Like, for example, trustworthy, responsible, professional, things like that, right? But many of times what happens to individual, why is it that they can't do the branding, is because they have it, we probably have this issue that we want to be what our mother wants us to be, our father wants us to be. So at the end of the day, it becomes very confusing because I'm doing my best to be what my boss, what the society, or whoever wants me to be. At the end of the day, the branding will not work because the soul is not there. That's what I mentioned. It's not congruent at all.
I so love what you're sharing, because when we talk about the soul, right, it's like, at best, if I were to, let's say my gifting, like what Einstein says, right? The fish will forever seem stupid as it looks at the monkey and like, why can't I climb the tree, right? Until the fish owns completely who I am, right? And who I am is, I am in the water, the king, right? And I'm not meant to be on the tree and then can't even breathe, like struggling and thinking I'm a failure. But as we begin to dare to say, I'm going to put aside society's expectation, my parents' demands, or even what my spouses sometimes, or even what my children, and just take this time for me to look at what makes me happy. I think one of the easiest way that I found is what's your inner compass of joy? Because, and many mothers have lost track of that, in conversations that I have.
Yes.
Roger, I don't know for you, okay? But for a lot of moms, we ask, what's your hobby? What makes you happy? Don't know. Everything about the children so much that I've forgotten who I am. Yes, and it starts, and my projection can only come out as I anchor, like a tree, the deeper the roots are, as I anchor on who I am. And then to stand strong. And regardless of what people say I need to be or to do, no, woman can be rich and have it all.
Absolutely.
Right? That is, instead of them, people will come and say, because the society will always tell you things, Pauline, don't be greedy. Pauline, are you sure not? Have your cake and eat it too. But I think the more rooted we are, we're like, of course, and look at me, here I come. Let me be the example to show people that you can have wonderful relationships at home, you can have money, you can have it all. And I think that is what the world really is looking for. Examples, testimonials, like living testimonials of individuals who dare to shine for the beings that we are. Not be a mole of someone else, right?
Precisely. That's why I always tell my children. I mean, a lot of you won't believe me, but my eldest daughter is already 21 years old. Next year,
Unbelievable.
yeah, my younger one is 18. Okay, so that's why I'm always saying be a brand, and of course I keep myself a lot, right? Yeah, in terms of all aspects. Yeah, even though I run a 2 listed company, okay, and right now because AV is also a listed company, we brought it to listing. I'm very busy. I still have to take care of myself, and whatever that I tell people about investing, Because, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know what, you're single, you have a lot of time. I'm a busy mother. I need to take care of a lot of things. I tell people, I also, right? I need to work, me too. I need to do housework, me too. I don't have a helper until recently because my father-in-law was sick, right? I grew up, my two kids grew up without a helper. I do housework, me too. So, and then I've got no time. But then you have 24 hours, I have 24 hours. How come I can do it, right? It's all about an intention of really putting it into place. And that's really important.
That's an amazing point, because again, ladies being ladies, because we are busy, we are mothers, we've got 1,001 things to handle, you just forget yourselves. And sometimes when we coach our clients, right, we notice that their brand is showing up sloppy because they are struggling inside. Yeah. So when we brand ourselves, it's also a signal that, hey, I've got a new journey, I'm in a new season, and I'm ready to take charge of my life. It's not just this superficial thing, right? It's a lot more than that. And I always tell people, when you own your authentic brand and you step into it, confidence rises. Because you give yourself the permission to be your best self, to be your true self. And when you show up confident and powerful, a lot of people connect more to you. They're more attracted to you. Yes. And then it's a little bit like the law of attraction, whether we believe it or not. It really, really kind of comes around when people can see that you own your brand.
I'm just smiling because there's this saying, fake it until you mean it, right? Like there are days where I'm down, right? And I don't feel like smiling. But in just wearing a smile or just putting on lipstick or in wearing something, or just looking up and smiling, it shifts our entire countenance such that the inside experience is also transformed, just in small shifts like that. So I love what you talk about, having something bigger for us to be pulled by, inspired. So we don't just live for, but today I don't feel, it's no more about me, little me, but it's really a bigger brand that pulls me in my lowest days forward towards my commitment of who I want to be. So I think a very powerful reminder.
A lot more purpose driven. It's not just about me, but then, people are looking to me for advice, for messages, and I want to be able to share with them what I stand for so that you can do the same.
And with that, right, Roger, I want to include you in the conversation because we have to talk about vision and purpose. Because very often, I think from a company's point of view, the vision and the purpose is what pulls the company. Yeah. So I want to hear from your perspective. What does branding entail in a company? How do we create? So let's say for an entrepreneur or a company who is undergoing rebranding, what are some points they can consider in writing that statement, or is it even outdated? Because some people say writing your vision and purpose statement outdated already. Now it's to write how you solve problem. What is your value statement? Yeah.
Okay, I think Junior, definitely, I think you're right. It's important. I think the whole inside out expression of a company is just like human, just talking about the mother, as a person itself. Yes. So it's not as complicated. Just some people think business is very complicated. But so when you're trying to know what is your business identity, which we call branding itself, and the first step, definitely, you must put your stand very well is what is your vision and mission itself. So that represents a character. So in this aspect, as an example, like our Singapore Digital Chamber of Commerce, our mission is connecting enterprise with policymaker and community to harvest a digital economy in Asia. So this is a very clear stand itself, because just like in the whole activity itself, the mission, vision, and also the other part is what is your belief in it. So our belief, we're championing 4 verticals: the AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, and digital transformation. So we connect all the businesses in this 4 areas together as we connect them together with policymaker and expand out to the other Asia economy with I'm not Malaysia Digital Chamber of Commerce. This is what as commerce we do. So same thing like business. When you want to do a business, what is the mission that you believe in it? And I'll give a quick one more example. Is maybe for the ladies, the other one will be like there's a female entrepreneur worldwide. I think that's very relevant also. So same thing. Apart from the mission and vision itself, they are very clear. They are a platform for women to connect in the digital space itself. The color. Now we're talking about the consistency itself. The color you mentioned about pink. Yeah, right. Pink give energy. Pink tell people that what we are doing. So for my Singapore Digital Chamber of Commerce, I'm wearing yellow and blue. Example, blue is our color too. So same thing is very important on this perspective itself. So number one, as you write your mission statement, it's not for people to think who you are. But it must be something that you believe who you are. And how you gonna stand out? Let's say who are you addressed to audience? We in my chamber we don't really like to wear black. I'm sorry, other chamber is very formal. You know, it's we say we are more the new generation chamber. The older one you all see black shirt or whatever. Ours is blue, a bit more vibrant color. You know, so it's because we are in digital. We are addressing to the Millennial and Z. Definitely, I think definitely are the both my panelists, they're so expert in that area. So I love the addressing. Wow, very nice green with white. Cindy herself, that Pauline is so beautiful. So definitely junior year. So it's important that the whole perspective itself. Okay, I hope I say enough because I don't take too much time. If not,
We love your colors too.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Minion actually.
Straight away we remember Minion. Yeah.
We're very cute.
And associate,
Okay.
yes.
And I love, right, how you do that, Roger, because really, right, you know, when I first thought digital chamber of commerce, you know, chamber of commerce, just the term itself, we think it's a bit old, right? But in you just choosing to add a twist in the blue, it's not the kind of dull blue, but the brighter shade of blue that you've chosen. I think it shows that I'm more modern, on the cutting edge, you know, the kind of technology instead of a bit not so relevant. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Cindy, when we talk about, you know, aspects of brand creation, for you, right, how do we, Pauline, how do we identify a problem to solve? You know?
Sorry again?
Okay, so now we are talking about brand creation.
Yes.
How do we create a brand? So for an entrepreneur mom who's coming out, how do they identify a problem to solve?
A problem to solve. So I think first of all is, just like I mentioned, need to know what we stand for. Be it whether we are talking about we ourselves as a mother, as a mompreneur, as an influencer. Now so many influencers out there. I think everybody's fighting for space, right? Like, you know, like for example, you know, during the circuit breaker, I think that is a very good example that we have seen many of the women, mothers started to become bakers. Yeah, all of a sudden everyone bakes, right? And everyone sell their cakes, right? So we need to create a brand. So this is where the problem to solve. How do you solve a problem now? Will everyone eat cakes every day? Well, I love cakes, yes, but not every day. So, and then if there are so many bakers out there that everybody is doing home baking, let's say you want to start a business and you want to have that brand. So the next question is, what is the thing that people would want, and what are you solving? For example, women will always have one thing. We love sweets, we love to eat cake, but we do not want
To put on
get
weight.
yes, to put on weight. So why not go that track? Because we have this issue that we want to eat yet not put on weight. So come up with something that people can eat or women can eat and order more without putting on weight. So we are solving a problem. Yeah.
Wonderful. We are providing an option that is not there in the market. Yeah.
Precisely.
From what I hear.
Yeah. So there are different types. Like nowadays, I've seen low carbs, low sugar, keto, whatever. Yeah. But at least there is something that stands out. I mean, it need not be a case of this. It could be some other cases of, you know what? I will put up a cake, but this cake is not going to be cream. It's going to be something else. Like nowadays, there's a lot of like jelly cakes. Yeah. And our mother will say, okay, instead of having cakes that's really unhealthy for my children, I'm going to put in, like, for example, the fruits with the jelly cake, and that's health. So what are we going to solve? So there are a lot of things that when it comes to problem solving, and we are thinking of what to do. This is where we could go into for it. That's why the time during the investing, I'm solving a problem. And how do I find it? Is because I'm passionate about getting women to start to invest, because I realize a problem. Women are not investing, yet we are savers. Most of us, frankly speaking, although we like shopping, but we are still savers, right? Yeah, especially mothers.
And I think that's because the society message tells us save. And then it's so deeply ingrained, we save.
Yeah.
You know, but that is only one method of multiplication. Then it becomes very defensive.
Yeah.
We're no longer aggressively accumulating or investing, multiplying.
In fact, when it comes to putting money in the bank, a lot of us, I mean,
we're losing money.
Yeah, we are losing money. It's not that we want to defend, we can't even defend. So we are
leaking already.
Correct, we are leaking. So I want to tell people that we have to do it, because if you don't do it, you're just wasting all your effort about saving.
Mm.
Yeah, and it takes so long, so hard for us to like save that. Now it's not 5 cents, 10 cents, like our grandma's time, but like the 100, 200, that kind of thing. So we have to know how to at least beat inflation, know the importance of financial management. So that's the message every time I want to put across.
Wonderful.
So powerful.
And you shared something very important. You know, I do a lot of research, right?
Yeah.
So they say the 3 problems, if we want to solve the most, would really be health. If you have a business with health, which is what you brought up, wealth, because a lot of people are looking for money, or relationship. So actually another sector to enter is a lot of relationship. So that's where Mumspace is in, right? Where we talk about parent-child relationship, where we talk about your health, where we talk about your wealth, right? These are the 3 that people will pay money for. Because you may be solving a problem, but not painful enough for people to want to pay you.
That's also the tagline that I always put up. Yeah, abundance, wealth, good health, and happy relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is what we actually stand for, and in V we have this program called the Infinite Wealth, where we talk not just about money in itself, because money is a tool. But everyone knows money is a tool. I mean, at the end of the day, we are not accumulating like $1 million and see that $1 million. I think apart from very few people, maybe Warren Buffett would love to see $1 million. I mean, we are not here to see a $1 million note and then feel happy about it, right? But what we want is using money and wealth as a tool to make sure that we have happy relationship, that we can, let's say, go for holidays, that we don't need to worry if touch wood, if our family, you know, something happens, and then we can also maybe take care of our health. You know, ultimately,
Absolutely.
this is the thing about life.
And that was the
Means to
woman
the
of
end.
that was the Woman of Wealth series we
Yes,
did,
the
right?
Women of Wealth series is part of our branding as well. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And Cindy, so I have a difficult question for you, right? How do I create my brand to stand out? So for example, this one do gluten-free, this one do, you know, and then how do I still stand out?
Okay, you know, yeah, this is a difficult question, but it's really not that difficult. I think the first thing is to ask yourself, are you searchable by your target market or not, you know? So I think online presence, I'm not going to go too much into that because I believe the earlier panel talked about it. Just kind of be aware that you need to be around to be seen, because you know, if your presence is not found, then we are non-existent. Don't talk about brand creation. So make sure you are found. The other thing I always talked about is at ImageWorks, we have a model called the 3 A's of brand development, and that's appearance, actions, and attitude. So appearance-wise, I think being very clear about what are the elements of design that you're going to use in your brand, because people are attracted to the appearance of a product, like it or not. We are all visual creatures. That's why Instagram and all that is like boom town. So that means asking questions like, you know, what kind of a look and feel will my clients connect with? My target market connect with. Yeah, so one example I could share is this. So this lady, we had an American client. So she flew all the way to Singapore because she wanted to get some help with branding her a little bit more. She is an executive C-suite coach. And she sent us some marketing materials way beforehand for us to review. And when she finally turned up at our office, we got a shock of our lives, because she showed up in person totally different from how we viewed her in the marketing materials. In her marketing materials, she came across as a little bit like a retiree, principal, nurturing type person. But she was totally not like that. She came into the office and she's dynamic and she's singing and she's this loud boomster voice, you know. So we thought, oh wow, this is a situation of a lack of visual integrity.
A mismatch.
You're showing up this, but you know, your clients, their clients not getting you. They are not getting you. So we sort of had to rebrand her, gave her a little bit more fun in her look and feel, not just the appearance, but different elements of her marketing communication materials as well. And when we did that revamp, the business started to change because she was trying to pitch to C-level corporate executives in Singapore. So she needed to show up a little bit more cutting edge and not so much of the granny type
of principle.
Yes. So I think being aware of that, you know, using elements of design such as colors, prints, fabric, styles, accessories to communicate the look and feel. So that's the appearance part. The second A is really about actions. You know, you talked about relationships. A lot of people might think that some of these things are tiny, but little things do make a huge difference. So every time you meet somebody, whether is it over in person, on an email, on a Zoom call like that, on WhatsApp, always ask yourself, what is the brand experience that I'm giving to this person? Yeah, so people generally like people that are responsive, considerate, making an effort to express yourself clearly, and then you become a likable brand that connects with people. And then the last one is really thinking about your attitude. And for us, we actually go deeper into the EQ part. So being very aware of how your emotions is affecting your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and how is that showing up when you are communicating with people, when you're stressed out. What kind of behavior do you show up? So the appearance, actions, and attitude, and please be searchable. Let your clients be able to find you.
There's so much wisdom in what you're sharing. I'm just thinking, the term I have is moments of truth, right? Where when I first connect with your brand experience, whether it's a phone call, whether it's I see a flyer, what is the experience, the emotion that it draws out of me? Am I excited to come, or do I just can skip, can avoid? And all this, right, are so critical that again for me a reminder of just the answer of just the eyes that are watching and listening all the time, because our brand is often our reputation that precedes us.
Absolutely.
And our brand, this is something very true, right? It's not what we say, The true test of a brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. Yes, when you leave the room. So you can say, I'm what. Then when you leave the room, right? What do people really say? When you're no more there, behind your back, what do you leave people with? And that's why I think like what you're saying, the relationship or the EQ part is so important.
So important.
Because I can just say anything I want to say and it doesn't matter. Or I may not have said the right thing. But I leave people with the experience of my authenticity, of my genuineness. And even if my brand is not beautifully made out there, but people connect with, wow, this one really got the heart. There is so much more patience that people will then accord, or people will say, it's okay. I am in this with you even if your brand is not like fanciful out there, because there's something deeper about you. So Pauline, I love what you're sharing about the soul. I think the more connected we are with our soul, the more people connect with that. And even if on the outside, not very nice in that sense, because it's all a journey, right? People tend to be saying, it's okay, I want to be alongside you. I can connect with you because of the authenticity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. And okay, so now moving on. Roger, we know you are here. Moving on to stages of branding, okay? For you. What questions can one answer as I'm starting out? So, in the entire brand creation process, right? If let's say I'm an entrepreneur, because this is today the rise of the VUCA world. We cover the rise of the gig economy. The encouragement is for people to put yourself out there, So what questions would you advise, an individual, a viewer watching now, to ask themselves to consider in putting in their brand?
Okay. I think this part, maybe I just bring into two portions itself. One is for people who are starting up with a new brand. One is maybe people taking over certain old business and trying to start a brand. So in a short way. So if you start, I think both itself come to primary, who is your target market itself. So means who we are trying to speak to. If you are trying to talk to a millennial, let's say the millennial or even the Generation Z itself, today imagine I don't know, you're still using the medicated oil X brand itself. So I also happen to have an interesting talk with some young people about a few months ago when I was using that X brand. People thought, wow, it looks ugly. Oh, no. So first of all, in thinking today itself, if you appeal to all this Generation Z itself, I think it's important what is going to appeal to them. So the whole the look and feel. People like to talk about look and feel today. So that's one. What's color? So that's why recently I encountered a company in China and US called Beyond. A very unique branding company. Wow, very bold color, but this is something that not many people use. So number one is very important. The first advice was target market itself. So I'm trying to talk about the other part is that your old brand try to reinvent. But this is something I did for Toys R Us back in 1999. Okay, so but what I've advised them from 1999 until 2021, they're still using what I advised them, which is I feel not happy and not happy. Happy because they're still using what I advised them. Not happy, I think, to be honest, it should be obsolete anyway. So I still remember when I pitched to them 999, Toys R Us are appealing to young children. No? I still remember the tagline, I think for three of you are too young. I'm a much older man, so okay. So you may not know. It used to have this tagline on TV called "Every day is Sunday for Toys R Us Kid in Singapore." But interesting, I spoke to the GM then. He can't even remember that's the tagline they have. But I say when I go see a Toys R Us in the 999, it's just like a warehouse. All the toys, dumb things. I say, hey, I'm also in my early 20s. I say, I imagine my kids are going inside there. Oh, wow, it's so boring. No, I wouldn't want to go to a store. I would rather go metro and so on. So hey, you must create an experience. That's 999. So I propose to them to create this called shop in shop concept. I say you must like children want to go to a maze, go inside it. Hey, I see Barbie Land. I see Hot Wheel Land and so on. So people want to see segment, which they did a trial concept shop in a forum then, and it rolled off well until the whole Asia itself, because that's under Lee and Fong Group itself. Yeah, so I just happened to be in Malaysia yesterday. Then I say happened in Pavilion. Then I talked to one Toys R Us. She was always same concept, happy and not happy. Okay, so it should change. Even today, it should change anymore. So I think the very important thing is what is relevant today to your target market, your concept. Always thinking about who are your target market, who are you speak to. I think that's the first advice I'll give them. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing, right, Roger, that really it's about reinventing yourself. Because like what started 10 years ago for Toys R Us, that, I mean, you helped them to revamp, from a warehouse to an experience is what I hear, may not serve today, right? And I think branding is really a day, literally after we create, it's not just leaving it there for the next 20 years without reinventing. But I think in today's volatile world, where things swing and change so quickly, it's about staying relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you, Roger. And Pauline, so if I were to ask you, right, what if, example, I first create my brand, and then things don't seem to, there's a bit of a disconnect. How do I then begin to look at what I can do to stay relevant?
Yes, in branding, I must say, other than after we search for the soul and want to know who we really are and what we stand for, it is a journey. Yeah, like what Cindy said, it's actually a journey. We have to do a little bit of a trial and error. Yeah, like we have to get feedback. And feedback is really important. Feedback is not about, I think I'm like that, and I want to convince people I'm really, really like that. Sorry. It does not work that way, right? Yeah.
Use loud hailer. I am fun. And then but okay, it doesn't work this way.
So
okay.
This is what a lot of people would love, like branding. No, it doesn't work that way, right? So we have to constantly check with our target audience, check with our market. I think getting the message. Yeah. If they are not getting, why not? Yeah. If I want to portray, even if I really want to be, let's say, I want to be a fun person, I want to make sure that ultimately people will view me as a fun person, let's say, but I'm really not fun. Okay, fake it. Fake until we make it. Really. And that is why you see we have to reach that goal, and we need to know how to change the different variables. Yeah. There's always things like, for example, we can work on different parts. Let's say we want to be fun, right? Then color scheme. Right, so go and research about color scheme. This is one of the easiest to start with. Instead of maybe wearing black, and black we know is not fun, right? So what do we wear? Like today, as you can see, we're like Christmas. Christmas is fun. So wear Christmas color, and people say, wow, you look like a Christmas tree. Get it, right? Fun, yeah. Nobody will think of Christmas as not fun. So Christmas. So this is where we have to do a lot of probably trial and error, and then from there, maybe color is one, and our daily activities is another one. How we write, how we communicate is the other one, and maybe if you have a website, our landing page, how does our website look? Does our website look stern and not fun at all? So we have to change everything to make sure that it is fun. And the language that I use, do I portray fun? My body language, do I tell people I'm fun? So ultimately, once we work on the outer, sometimes we were saying it's best to go from inner to outer, right? Actually, the outer and the environment can change the inner.
Both. I think it works both ways. In, out, and out, in.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So if really we want to do and then it doesn't work that way, then find ways, get feedback. I think that's the best way. Practice does not make perfect. I always tell people, Yeah, because we can practice always doing the wrong thing to make sure the wrong thing is perfect.
Actually, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Actually, practice makes permanence.
Yes,
The more you practice, whether good or bad, that will become permanent, and then the habit.
Precisely. So how to make it perfect is practice with feedback. Will make it better. It will never be perfect, but at least it will make it
Next
better.
level.
And I think the feedback that we get, right, is don't get it just from friends. Because I think sometimes our friends or even family have a particular perspective about us that may not serve us.
Yeah,
But if you want to be like what you say, change your external, you want to be somewhere here, to be seen as a, let's just use the analogy of fun person, then mix around with fun person or ask them, hey, when it's fun, how do you see this? And I think the feedback from that will pull you in the direction that you want to be. Right? Instead of just staying within your circle and what we are comfortable with.
Totally.
Yeah, wonderful. And Cindy, the question I have for you, right, is, sometimes in business, I'm firefighting. There's so much work to be done, right, Roger? I'm firefighting and then must still do branding. How do I draw the balance between spending my time on branding and on really providing a service?
So again, I think this one really links back to what we stand for. And one of the things that I always tell my clients is, don't just think about what you stand for on the outside, but also think about your core values, right? So think about your core values, come up with your brand attributes, then ask yourself how you're going to communicate it. So while you're firefighting, you're having stress, you're also asking yourself, okay, I have this difficult conversation to have with the CEO of so and so. How am I going to bring in my core values into this situation? So let's say your core values is respect. How am I going to ensure that I bring some level of respect into this situation? So again, when we start to think about branding as a deeper thing rather than it's just something I portray, it will actually come out very naturally. Because when we think about core values, it's relationship with yourself. Do you show respect to yourself? For example, core value is respect. Do you show respect to other people? How are you demonstrating respect at work? So I think just balancing that and always having in mind, because very often we forget what our value is. So busy, right? What value are you talking about? Like, no time to change diapers. Yeah, so reminding yourself, hey, this is how I want to live my message. This is how I want to live my brand. Even as mothers or spouses, we're always asking ourselves, what am I bringing into this conversation with my husband or my child? As long as you sort of have that in mind and you practice it regularly, it will become a part of your life. I truly believe that.
I love what you talk about values, and one exercise that I would encourage our viewers to do is to really spend some time, December, Christmas, not just reflecting but creating, and then write it on a piece of paper. And then stick it, whether it's on your toilet mirror, I mean, we have our home values on the wall, because really out of sight, out of mind. So I create, very often write New Year resolution, after write, I don't know put where, and then 1 year later we do the same exercise, I may find it, and then they're so demoralized that I forgot about it. But sometimes we forgot, right? But sometimes it's using the environment, like outside in, right? Harnessing our environment to remind us, hey, I said I stand for love, but that act to my child or even to myself in terms of self-love was not loving. And it's not to chide ourselves, but to then, okay, let's remind myself, okay, love is my message. Love is my connection. Love is my being. And I think very often when we put reminders around, whether it's in the car or, on the door, wherever we are, the more reminders, it becomes after a while who I am, synonymous with my value. And then I don't even have to think anymore. I am oozing that out. So,
Mothers as a branding one.
Mothers got branding.
Why? You say, this is a tiger mom. That's a brand already, what?
Helicopter mom.
Helicopter mom. And that's another brand.
What's a helicopter mom? I've never heard about that.
A helicopter mom is one who hovers over you, watches and micromanages and tells you how your life should be, hovering, breathing down your neck.
Okay. I learned something new today.
So there are different mothers, like laissez-faire mom, So I always tell people, even as mothers, what kind of mothers do we want to brand ourselves? It is very important. Don't think, where got time? Every day we have to do this. But our children are the ones who are our customers. They observe us every day, 24/7. Yeah, whatever that we do, whatever that we say, how we react to certain things, it is a brand.
And that's so beautiful what you said, because when we can have that feedback or that consistency at home, because very often I believe in the privacy of my house, behind the four walls, that is where, to me, the battles are won and fought. You know, like ultimately, if at home I can convince my kids, or there is a congruence, outside now is a given already. But very often, I think the lack of congruence, right, is I put myself to be like that, then come home, and then like, then the kids are like, no, mom, on TV you say this, but you say you come back, then you and then there's such a disconnect.
Correct.
So I think really from what I'm hearing, right, congruence is really about mine. It's first about what it's really about my soul, and then what I say, what comes out of my mouth, what my hands are doing, what my eyes see, and then how people view me. I think that would come true.
There's sort of like an alignment, you know.
Yes.
It's like a straight alignment. If you find that there's a misalignment, you might want to ask yourself, where is it that I am showing up incongruent to what I say my values are? And one of the activities I always get my coaches to do is, so let's say again, you say that your value is love. Okay, I get them to actually write down, what do you see when you talk about love? So for example, I see myself speaking in a loving way to my child. What would you hear when you think about the word love? I'm going to hear myself using words of love even when I'm correcting my child. So I get them to define it, so it doesn't just become a word which is airy-fairy.
I love how you crystallize it, and then how do the actions show up? You know, do I use words like, hey love, I love you, or is there laughter? You know, what's the sound I hear? What's the words I use? How do I feel in my heart? Or what's my entire body sensation? I think even creating this, it's such a powerful pre-exercise because first we conceptualize in our mind on the paper, and then we can create.
Absolutely.
So very good.
And you're living your brand. You're not just portraying something that is superficial. We don't want that, right? We want it to be inside out. And that's when I say, when you live your brand, you live your message. And that becomes very powerful. And when people see that you're powerful and living your brand, they get inspired by you and they go, okay, when I grow up, I want to be like my mom. You become like that.
And I think that's very powerful, because in today's world, the world is crying out for congruence. Because I mean, we read so many stories, right, where people say something and then they are caught doing something else, and then it becomes scandalous, right? And we are really crying out for heroes who dare to make mistakes, openly admit it, and then, you know, because that vulnerability that connects us to our humanity, that we are not perfect and we will never be. But are there brave enough people who dare to keep putting themselves out there over and over and over again?
That's really important, to admit the mistakes and to fine tune it. So many people, when it comes to in my organization, like, I'm always called the Wonder Woman. Not because I can do a lot of things. It's because they know the other side of me is I always wonder where my things are.
Okay, wonderful.
So it's very congruent. Even my daughter, you know, she's like that. And then my team member, I know she cannot find her water bottle. And then the next day, where's my phone? So they will know this Wonder Woman is at play. I even left my AirPod at NTU, but I managed to find back.
I know
your airport.
Yeah, my AirPods.
Just last night. Hey, my phone. Again, mom, you tell us to be responsible, and then but I'm going to tell that mommy is the Wonder Woman, always leaving you all wondering. I think that's such a okay. So to bring this to a wrap, right? Okay, Roger, if we can start with you, what is one advice that you want to leave our audience with regards to branding, finding their unique signature?
Okay, maybe one advice I'll put this way is about creativity itself. So I always leave a quote that I always say is that you are not poor when you have no money in your pocket. You are poor when you have no idea in your mind. So it's important when I tell people about the whole branding itself. About branding yourself as a mother, branding yourself as a personality, branding yourself also, or in business itself, is always be creative and think through what you want yourself to represent as. It's very important. This branding is the whole thing about the whole look and feel, the whole consistency itself. Okay.
Thank you for redefining resourcefulness, right? Like I may have no money in my pocket, but as long as I'm resourceful and creative and a lot of ideas, I will never be, I am rich, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Roger. And Pauline, what's one advice you want to leave our audience with?
Do it. Just do it. This is a very powerful tagline, right? Everybody knows this tagline, So just do it would be, do not procrastinate if you really want to do branding and how to start. Because many of the people are always stuck with this. How do I start? And the advice would be, just do it. Start to do it with identifying a soul, maybe. Start to do it with identifying a color, also can. Start to do it with a language that you want. Start to do it with a word that you want to use. But most importantly, start right now.
Wonderful. So wherever you are, you've heard a lot of what we've said, whether it's Cindy's combination with what Roger, with what Cindy or Pauline and or whatever we have shared. Just use it, do it, you know, just start somewhere. Yeah. And then remember, plaster everywhere. Because sometimes
Reminders.
Yes, because sometimes it's work in progress, right? I write something and then I can scratch it off. So it's really remind ourselves that it's really work in progress.
It is.
And Cindy, the advice that you want to
So for me, I think it's really about just kind of reminding ourselves that as 2022 is coming, it's really a new season, a new opportunity for us to redefine things. So make the time for yourself. Don't do this for anyone but yourself. Take the time to reflect about what you stand for. I feel very sad when I see people saying, I don't know what I am. It's very sad. And don't live your life blind, not knowing who you are and what you stand for. Start with that process. Own your authentic brand and show up to communicate your brand messages powerfully, because you're totally worth it.
Wow, I love that tagline. We are totally worth it, including you, Roger. And like what you say, right? I think our brand is not just who I am, but it talks about my mission in life. I mean, if at the end now we were to close this entire thing, who are you as a being? Who are you as a person? What's your contribution to this earth, right? Like take time, right? This Christmas season to give yourself this gift of time, of solitude, whether it's at the beach or whether it's a cafe, you know, having coffee, or whether it's with friends, right? Spend time digging through to discover what's my bigger purpose, right? And I think in that, right, will be the head and the heart alignment. With that, thank you so much. I trust it was an enjoyable session on branding, creating your signature. Stay tuned because our last panel session is about understanding our millennials. So a lot of parents say, hey, I don't understand why my kids are, their thought process are my different. And if you are an employer, you know, in the business, I don't understand how come these millennials are so strawberry. So that is what we will be covering very soon after our lovely Charlene gives away the prizes. Over to you, Charlene, and thank you. Bye. Bye.
Today's session with our panelists. Pauline is kindly sponsoring 2 books. This one is actually written by her. It's called Invest Like Buffett. If you like this book, do key in Invest. Okay, we'll be giving 2 books. It's also, the other one is Value Investor for Women. Isn't it going to be very valuable for you? So if you like that, key in Invest. We have 10 books from her to give away. Key that in the comments. And for Cindy, she's giving the personal branding coaching, which is worth $600. If you like that, comment brand in the comments, and then you stand a chance to win this prize. We really thank you and acknowledge you for coming today to be the change maker, to spark that off with your family, in your work life, and for yourself as well. Tonight, what we have in store for you at the marketplace is going to be more flash deals, stage times with more content from our exhibitors. We'll be sharing more information with you for the working mothers on other indulgences you may like to have. So key in today at 8 o'clock, tune in, is at our marketplace, and then join our marketplace at 8 p.m. for more flash deals. You can even win the VIP passes by Mumspace. We will be having 12 masterclasses in the following year, which will be covered by our panelists with in-depth information and also more knowledge for you to grow personally. So we're going to have a short break before we come back again with the panel session. So go for a quick break before we come back again.
Welcome back and a very good afternoon to each and every one of you who is taking time to join our last panel session. So our last panel session, right, is very interesting when we talk about fulfilling work because it's millennials' career choices, understanding the head, the heart, the actions of our strawberries. And with that, I want to introduce you to our wonderful panelists, right? We have specifically Veronica, who is the founder of Energia. So Veronica will represent for us the boomer industry, the boomer, the Gen X, the generation that values something a bit different from millennials.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Veronica. And then we have Menda. Menda is the founder of Bollywood Adventures. So Menda will be the voice of the millennials for us. So give us an insight to the way you think, to the way you structure your thoughts, okay? And then we have Vivek. Vivek is an author and the founder of Millennial Minds, and his strength is really being the millennials expert. So a speaker and author, he specializes in helping us understand our millennials today, yeah? And with that, let's start, right, with the difference, okay? Because I think for a lot of our viewers, the clash, you know, we just, the two words we use is generation gap, right? And then we leave it as generation gap. And then, but actually behind those two words, there's a lot of finger pointing. Behind those two words, there's a lot of blame. There's a lot of like, you cannot make it, I'm better than you, you know? And today's panel session seeks to remove all that, to bridge the gap. How can I appreciate you for your strengths? How can you, the strawberry generation, appreciate the older generation for their values and their insight? So that as we bridge it, right, the heart is really that we evolve as a human race in blending our strongest strengths together. So starting with you, Veron, to give us an insight now, because some of our viewers may be the millennials, right? What are key priorities for those people in your generation?
For me, I'm a baby boomer, that's definitely, and then I have 3 millennial children. And so when I thought about myself in my 20s, when I started being an employee, I find myself, I never bargain for pay. I just work in an environment that suits me because I walk to work, and then I can put the children around the workplace. I go and send them to work. I send them to childcare, I go to work, I pick them up. So it all revolve around the area. So for me, it's convenience. And also when I stay in Salvation Army to run a daycare center, it was for 14 years until my children were about 17 years old at that time. So for me, our baby boomers, we are very loyal. We take ownership. We are very responsible. And we take pride, and we have a purpose. So we work around the family activities until the children grow up. Then I started the business.
Thank you. And in just what you say, I can see Menda nodding. And yet, right, there's so much like, you know, because sometimes, right, there's this thing, projection. When I'm loyal, I expect loyalty back. When my heart is for the family, I expect it back. And I don't understand why there seems like you don't care about the family, or it seems like always job hopping. So Menda, will you be able to share with us, right, what are key priorities of those in the millennial generation?
I don't think millennials, of course, can be grouped and blanketed as strawberries, you know. I would argue against that. Okay, but priorities, of course, are different among everybody. It really depends on where you are as a millennial. Many of us are single, you know, happy to mingle, and also love traveling and our independence. Some of us are already tied down with families, so of course, financial stability and a sense of security is important, even in the millennial generation. But I would say across the board, our generation grew up in a time where the world changed a lot. You know, we were exposed to a lot of different values, and therefore impact is important to us. When we work and when we either whether or not we're an employee or we are a self-starter, we're a business person, we want to see the impact of our efforts. So if you want loyalty from the millennial generation, then I think you need to give them a job that they perceive to be meaningful and impactful. You know, they don't want to be slogging for hours and hours, not knowing where that output's going to go, and they don't want to be poorly remunerated for that effort. So impact is one thing that's definitely a priority for a lot of millennials. The other thing, of course, is that big buzzword work-life balance, right? Because it's not just about, where you are in your company, the title you have, the pay that you receive. Pay is important to millennials because they have a huge financial pressure. A lot of them are now in their 30s, raising young children, and you know how expensive that is. And they also have other goals besides just providing for their children. It's not just parenting these days, but they have goals of upgrading themselves. They have goals of seeing the world. They have goals of, pursuing hobbies outside of their job. So all these take money. So definitely they want a good pay package. But that's not all. There are many millennials, I think, that are willing to sacrifice a high pay for a job that gives them satisfaction that's outside of the conventional sense. So impact is one of them. Work-life balance is a second priority that I think millennials have.
Wonderful. Thank you. I mean, I see the huge contrast, right? From Veronica, she's sharing that security is important, loyalty is important. For you, impact is important, work-life balance. And I think we literally, like what you said, we grow up in different generations, right? The earlier generation struggle, so a bit of money is to be grateful already. At least we have that. But this one is like grow up, very comfortable. Yeah. So then I think the needs, the living standards are very, the lifestyle. Right? It's completely different already. Vivek, as the millennial expert, how would you help us understand the differences between the boomer generation and Gen X together with the millennials?
Yeah, the first thing you notice is in the answers they already shared, right? Their values are very different, right? For the millennials, they are more towards the status updates rather than the status symbols. Right, so there is this research that actually shows in Singapore, right, the baby boomers, when they were growing up, success meant the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You have one spouse, 2 children, 3-room flat, and 4 wheels. Right? And then,
I thought the 5 C's.
That's for the Gen X.
Oh, okay.
Gen X had the 5 C's, right? The car, the cash, the condominium, all
Credit
of those.
Card,
all of those. But millennials, they are more about status updates. It's about experiences. What are the things I can do? How can I enjoy my life? And not just be stuck to 9 to 5 every single day, right? There has to be more to this than just working to earn a living, right? So that's where the passion movement came about following your passion, do what you are really purposeful about, do things that have impact, right? So these are the kind of things that really excite the millennials. They are very passionate about those things. And in fact, even the loyalty, right? It is a very different definition for them. Loyalty in a time where there's not a lot of opportunities is not really loyalty. Loyalty in a time when there's a lot of opportunities is loyalty, right? So if you have a lot of opportunities and you still choose not to go to another company, that's when you're really, really loyal, right? You can always pull people away, if you're not loyal, but that is the different way that they're seeing things, right? So this is what I think is, it's all in the values that they are portraying out in the workplace.
Wonderful. You talk about, I love the loyalty part because, and at the end of it, right, I think it's two ways, right? My loyalty to you as the employer, if you are my employer, and your loyalty to me as a millennial or employee. Yep. But what I want to focus on is what you shared about status updates. And I think a lot of parents have already taken it for granted, but many may not still understand why must you post so much on social media, what you're doing, what you're eating, things like that. But from what you're sharing, right, the status update is really their way of expressing themselves and sharing with their community what they're doing, is it?
Yep, it is. And it is also a way for them to showcase what's going on in their life, right? So everyone wants to know what's happening behind the scenes. So everyone likes to showcase that, hey, this is what I'm doing today. This is all the stuff that I'm working on right now. And also to have a certain amount of presence, because a lot of them like to have that followership, that thought leadership, to be able to have some form of influence. So social media is so, so popular amongst this young generation because they're able to showcase different sides and personalities that they have, right? So that is one of those things that, back in the past, they didn't have these kind of things. If you really wanted to perform, it's when families gather and then we just do different kinds of dancing, songs and stuff like that. But today you have an entire platform. People are willing to pay you for it. You can get influencers and brands to endorse you for it. So there are people who can just go on TikTok, right, take photo or do a video of what are the cool stuff that this shop is selling and get people approaching you and saying, hey, can you do this for my shop as well? Can you do this for my company as well? So that it's not just about one job, one career, it's about multiple sources of income that they can create. So the world that we live in today is not as simple as it used to be. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, there's so many things that you're sharing, right, that I'm taking, because I'm thinking even the posts, you will notice between the older generation and the millennials tend to post more about where I am, what I'm doing, the experience.
Yep.
But for the older generation, when they post, look at my new car, it's more material, right? It's still the social status. So both may be posting, but very different things, because it shows an insight to their mindset. This is what I value. You see, my new whatever. But this one, you see, my experience, even if I fall down in the drain. You know, it's to show the experience, right? And that is what they are about. So I think even from the post, the quality of the post, it shows the difference in the mindset.
I think that's where I'm a bit atypical. I feel like when he mentioned status updates, I didn't immediately associate with social media. I thought it was more on a philosophical level where millennials have, where am I in life every few years? That is also a status update, but that does not necessarily need to be shown to the world. And I think while Vivek definitely has a point, yes, my generation and below, or even a little bit above, has this relationship with social media, a bit of a love-hate. You know, you need it, and then like you don't really want it in your life, you know. But we also, well, at least the older ones among us, we also grew up in a time without it. So we know that some of us remember what life was like without it, and we have a nostalgia of it. So I used to be more active in social media when I was in my 20s, just because I had more time, right? I mean, now as a business owner, you know, and I can imagine even my friends with young children, they've stopped it entirely. So really, it's not a blanket all millennials that they are obsessed with social media. I think that is more referred to for Gen Z, the generation under us, the below 25s. Yes. Those are really addicted, and for them, status updates is about what you portray on your social media much more than your real life. I think among the millennials, it's even your children, it's a lot more balanced. A lot of them actually live offline lives, and that is a beautiful thing. It should still be one of the goals of people to have a digital detox once in a while. So the status updates, I think, for millennials is not just that literal, I'm going to put a Facebook status update or Instagram or TikTok, whatever, but it's also every few years, you know, where am I in life? What is my status in life? What are my values now? What are my priorities? And is my job still in line with these life, is it still in alignment with what I want in life right now? I think that's the more important status update that we should be thinking about.
I think in exactly what you're saying, right? I talk about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, where probably for the older generation, it's more about survival and security. I don't have the luxury of talking about my social, my friends. No, I need to work. So no friends, never mind. Let's work first, because I need to put food on the table. But as we have grown in affluence, our needs have changed. Where today, like what you say, right, Menda, it's about self-actualization. It's about my self-esteem needs. It's about recognition. Hey, are you seeing what I'm doing? And it's about self-actualization. Am I harnessing my uniqueness in contribution to the world? So I think that is one huge ability to then understand the different needs and how we are at different stages.
Yep. And you'll also notice the difference between the 80s millennials and the 90s millennials. Very huge difference. There are 80s millennials who don't really connect with the 90s millennials because they come from a hybrid kind of a thing. I know what my childhood was before the internet. I remember a childhood where,
I think I'm one of them,
where there was no...
I'm one of them, definitely.
It was snake games, and it was just, board games and stuff like that. We played block catching and stuff. That's the kind of like kampong-ish kind of childhood that they had, and very different from those who grew up with PlayStations and Xboxes and now smartphones and stuff, right? So it is also what they have been exposed to, right? The exposure really shapes what you're more comfortable with. So you'll also notice that the younger millennials and the Gen Zs are not as comfortable with having difficult conversations or holding a conversation with a stranger, right? Because they are more attuned to using the devices. So they can speak very well through the devices, but when it comes to face-to-face relationships, having eye contact, reading micro-expressions, understanding microaggressions is going to be a little bit of a harder thing for them to do. They will overthink calling a person. They will cancel a call that comes from a stranger's number, right? But they are okay to put up text on WhatsApp or on Facebook or by texting, they're okay to express themselves. So we see all these differences even between the millennials in the 80s and the 90s.
Wonderfully put, because I realize it's so easy for me to call someone. Let's just call it so much faster.
Yes.
But my daughter, no. Just text is faster. I'm like, which part of text is faster, you know? But they fire away, right? Keyboarders, they fire away. But I think it's not just what the speed. I think it's the ease of what we are used to, right?
What
because,
they're used to, what they're comfortable with.
Yes, because for me, the voice gives me so many more nuances of whether you're smiling, whether you are in a hurry, the pace at which you speak. But for them, everything is it's just typing.
Yeah. And I realize the older generation is actually better at detecting these micro nuances when you're having in-person meetings and stuff like that, as opposed to the younger generation that they tend to miss out on these small things like body language, non-verbal cues are very hard to pick up for them because they are more attuned to the devices.
Wow, thank you, Vivek. And
Which
now,
is so real.
And now I want to bring a rather contentious discussion, right? So earlier we talked about the strawberry definition, okay? So let's just look at
We
this.
should stop using that word.
No, but let's just.
I love strawberries, no, but I think it's been given a bad name in this context.
But I think let's even redefine the definition, right? Because I think that's a term that's used, but you know, like even tiger mom, right? There are different terms that people use, but let's talk about it, okay? So, Veron, in hiring the younger generation, have you experienced them as strawberries?
Okay, I have
And
not
why,
been very
you know?
successful in employing the millennials. All my staff, they are all grandmothers. So they are very loyal. They are willing to serve the customers, and they don't mind cleaning the people's feet because we have a detox therapy. But the millennials, when they come for interview, they know that these are some of the things that they need to serve. It puts them off. So they rather don't commit to taking up the job rather than get stuck there and have to be so humble to do this job. So now I'm trying to employ a millennial to be the managerial post. So when I interviewed him, I told him that you take ownership of this center. So you take ownership of this center. We want to convert this lifestyle center into a more activity-based community building, social engagement. So I want you to take ownership of this center, and he loves it. So he take on this challenge. So, but then there is a quota involved now. So whatever activity you bring in, there is a certain quota that you have to meet, right? I mean, if I pay you high, you have to meet your quota before I can afford to pay you, right? We are not a charitable organization. We are running a business. So that's where it's a challenge.
Wonderful.
So all my staff are all grandmothers.
Okay, I think you have found a balance in how to create a job that fits the millennials. So maybe they don't want to do something like washing the feet, but they can take ownership for this particular managerial position.
That's
So
right.
I think that's wonderful, right? In you being so adaptable.
Yes.
Do you think that that aversion to physical sort of service or tasks that are more associated with service, do you think that is the definition of being strawberries now?
I mean, I have not been very successful in getting the right person to take on this job, because when I interview them, I say you stay at my place for about half a day, observe what my staff are doing, and see whether this is the kind of work you like to do. Because I don't want you to sign the paper, after that you resign or you disappear, or it's a lot of paperwork, right?
But in answering, right, would you say that a bit of your mindset, yo, so soft, or what does strawberry even mean for you?
I think they also don't want routine work, because if it is a customer service work, it's very routine. Every day you come, you do A, B, C, D, E, all these.
It's a SOP, standard
SOP.
operating
So
procedure.
they don't like routine. As compared to grandmothers, they love routine. You don't go and change my routine. You upset me if you come and disrupt my routine. Whereas the millennials, they don't like routines. So they don't want to go to work every day do the same thing. That is not them.
So then, what's your perception like? Are you okay about it, or do you, is...
So I was not successful in employing one yet. I mean, so now
in that position,
in that position. I have been putting up so many ads in the LinkedIn, in the Job Street, in the Indeed, and
millennials are not looking.
Instagram? Do you
Yeah,
go on
millennials are
Instagram?
not looking for jobs in those
but I get
forums.
very good millennials. I outsource them to help me with all the digital work. They are very good. When I outsource them, they take responsibility because I pay them by hours, and then I pay them by result. And then there's another company, I outsource them to help me run ads for all my automated webinars. So they deliver result, I'm very happy to pay them. So when I outsource them, I'm very happy because this is what they're
So it's
good
more
at.
operations that you have got issues with
It's the digital
hiring
side.
and retaining millennials.
Yes. It's the operation to serve the customer at the center base that I have problem.
And I don't just think it's for you. I mean, to be very frank, I have friends in F&B. You know, the service job, the waitressing job is something that most millennials would tend to, can do one. You know, if I have the option, I would rather not. Yeah, but I love how you have found spaces to plug in the different groups of people to serve and for your business to still continue, right?
Yes,
like
have
thriving.
to.
Yeah, I mean, I think my observation is slightly different, maybe a bit more nuanced. I mean, Body Adventures is in a service industry, right? Maybe we do serve clients, maybe not so physical, but then we're in education experiences. So all my employees, I've only got 2, they're non-millennials, they are also retirees, you know, but everyone else is my age or younger. And by and large, of the 5 to 10 regular staff that do these operations for me, they're all very much in tune with service. So when you do experiences, you've got to set things up. And ours, we work with farming, so it's some of it is dirty too, right? I mean, we talk about soil, we talk about outdoor areas. They're very they're sort of yeah, exactly, and they're sort of very in tune with that. They will clean. So I think it's while there may be I don't know whether maybe there are studies associated with this. While there may be data that shows that the older generation is more comfortable with this sort of job, I do think that it really varies across generations. There are some young people that are very comfortable with service jobs. I mean, you go out there to restaurants and you see, for example, a group of, say, especially the foreigners, the Filipinos are so comfortable with being in service jobs. Yes. They love talking. They love, sort of like, maybe they don't love it, but they at least can pretend that they love it. They're very much in their element. So I think I don't think that it's...
I think what I'm hearing, the connection for you, right, is probably the purpose of your company. So really, if the purpose, because I think one of the purposes for the millennials is really saving the earth, right? It's really going green.
Maybe.
So maybe that connect with, yes, but saving the earth is about planting, is about...
but health and wellness is another priority. I mean, a lot of millennials like the wellness industry. A lot of them are yoga teachers and things like that, right?
Yes.
And yoga teachers do clean the studio. They do clean the toilets in the studio. So I don't think it's fair to generalize, right? And if you're a business owner, a lot of millennials are becoming business owners. They started, maybe about 5-6 years ago when they're approaching their 30s, get a bit of savings, get together, pull together, be a business owner. And when you're a small business owner, you are doing everything. I mean, I have cleaned every single nook and corner in the venues or the spaces that I've been in charge of, right? Because staff don't do it. They'll do it if you tell them, maybe sometimes grudgingly. But if you're a millennial business owner, you will do it because you take ownership as well. So
I have to survive.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
have to survive.
So I think I don't. So that's why I don't consider millennials strawberries. And I know that's the next question you were going to lead up to me, right? Yeah. Because I think to be a self-starter, to be someone in a managerial position, if your staff are not performing, then you pick up the slack. If you're a business owner and you've got people just not showing up for work, and this is a thing, man. I mean, with Gen Z, they just don't show up. That's what. Those things, they just don't show up.
So they don't show up
they
because
want to say something.
and they quit before they even start. Contract signed, quit before even start.
Why is that, Vivek? If you can share a bit.
Well, it could be because they have a lot of opportunities today, right? And when better opportunities come by, they're like, okay, why do I have to do this if I have a better opportunity coming by?
But say
it's
something.
also the same.
Say what? Say something, right?
Exactly. How about the communication?
So this is what I told you, right? They struggle to say something that is very difficult to say. Like,
I don't like the job scope
conversation.
Yeah, I don't like the job scope.
I know I promised you
think
something, but I can't tell you that I can't deliver anymore.
Okay,
right? So
that's hard for
so
them.
even
They
if
don't know how to say no.
even if they wake up late, they will struggle to tell their manager, I woke up late, and say, oh, sorry, I missed this because I overslept, because they will just like, okay, I can't say anything, I better not say anything.
Oh dear.
Leave it there.
So
Which is
silence.
actually worse, but they
It is
don't
worse.
realize that it's actually worse, and it gives a very negative impression of them. And that's where we have to actually come and empower, engage, understand them. Even with regards to staff, right? If millennials weren't as comfortable doing these kind of menial jobs, we wouldn't see nurses today. We wouldn't see a lot of people in the service sector today.
Yeah.
I think what's missing is a narrative that will inspire them to take on the job that will allow them to feel like I am contributing to a better
a bigger purpose,
a better world. And you know, United Nations has actually got these 17 goals that we can all align our businesses to. So if you can actually showcase that, hey, by serving our customers, this is how we are actually impacting the workforce, we're impacting the world, how we're making this world a better place. Millennials will actually see that as, okay, this is something I want to take on, this is something I'm going to be passionate about, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of it. So the narrative is very important in how you are introducing the job to them, rather than letting them observe and make their own conclusions. How about telling them a story about how this person went from point A to point B and is so happy because of all these things that they went through in between from your service. So I believe the narrative is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I think millennials, they do look up companies quite extensively before they even go for the interview. Because I mean, okay, for big companies, you do that because in the interview, you expect to be quizzed, right? For small companies, it's also important because, you know, if it's a small company, they probably expect that they'll be asked to undertake a lot more additional tasks just because, you know, you pull your weight if you're in a small company. And therefore, they will need that extra to make up, you know, sort of make up for that, okay, maybe not as a lucrative paycheck. So then they will be looking at, okay, what does your company stand for? You know, if I'm in this role, number one, what are my contributions to the table? And number two, what can this company contribute to the world? So yes, I think that is one way to attract and retain millennials, is that when you start with a job interview, it's worth just spending a few minutes just talking about the company, talking about the company, your values as a company, and your values as a boss, and that I think will set the tone before even going into sort of like the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day job.
That's why my staff can stay with me for so long. It's because of the values of the company, the mission and the vision that they are sailing together with us. Whereas the millennial, when I interview them, is like
But I think Veron, in what Vivek is saying, you know, UN, they have 17 goals, right, that we want to achieve as a world together. I think if you can identify which of these are so connected to that, because then it's no more just me and my company, but I'm a part of something bigger. So I think millennials, right, where for them, even if lower pay, but I know I'm part of a cause, right, that impacts, and that is something that I will put in my blood, my sweat, my loyalty for even. So I think that's one difference. And I think the other one, right, even as we're talking about interview used to be one way. I ask the questions as employer.
Oh, millennials have a lot of questions for the interviewer. Yes, they do.
Don't even know which way, you know,
exactly.
it's literally a balance already, where both are interviewing to see if there's a good fit.
In fact, you know, in the interview, they will ask you as a manager, what have you done for your employees during this COVID-19 to manage the mental issues at the workplace? Right? And this actually takes back a lot of managers like, oh, how am I supposed to answer that? I wasn't expecting that.
Okay, so back to the strawberry. Let's conclude this, right? You know, and I think a lot of older managers are like, what mental wellness? Because mental wellness, this talk of mental wellness, it seems to be a recent phenomenon, right? That seems to have gained a lot. So a lot of people don't understand, because last time just go all the way through, we chiong all the way. But now, mental wellness, you know, so understand.
You got to pause, you know,
you know, and then you got to love yourself. You got to, you know, have support structures. So how, strawberry? How did the strawberry term even come about?
So strawberries are known to have seeds that easily come off when you just touch it, right? Same like snowflakes, right? When it lands on your hand, it just melts. So snowflakes in the west and strawberries in the east, right? So these are because you are comparing based on your experience of what you have been through, but you're not understanding what they have actually been through. They have been in a very comfortable life, right? And they have not seen the hardships. Even though they've heard the stories and seen the movies, they've not felt the hardships. So they will not see that as a hardship. They will not be able to relate. And it will take them a little bit more of life experiences to really understand. So from a parenting point of view, you know, your mothers will always say, you will never understand until you become a parent yourself. I think it is pretty similar in that sense, where we have to gather those kind of go through those kind of hardships to be able to understand what you are saying. So at this point in time, as leaders or as parents, what we can do is to also look into how can we empathize with someone who has not been through the hardship that I have been through, and then start from where they want to start from, and then lead them to where I want them to go.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think
I think a lot of it is conscious also, right? Because for younger people, they may see that hardship is not a badge of honor; it is abuse. You know, it is something that is wrong in the first place, and so we, as a generation, choose not to repeat it. You know, and because we live in a different world and we can do that, so I think that is also our right as a generation to draw that line. You know, it's not healthy to not have boundaries. It really isn't. So I think that while I have a lot of respect for you know, older employees or older sort of people in the business community that will go all the way, that will not have a day of rest for like 30, 40 days, you know, if they couldn't. But I think that's not healthy. And so you know, you should be the one actually relearning and not saying to me, unlearn and not saying to me that, oh, you don't know what hard work is. And sometimes it's not just about, you know, chonging and chonging. Yes, I mean, I chong a lot also, you know, for sure. You know, I haven't had a rest in the last, I don't know, it feels like 1.5 years now, right? But you have to identify boundaries as well. That's healthy, and I think that that conversation needs to be that conversation always needs to be had.
We call this trickle down work ethics. So if it's not trickling down the same way it has worked from you to the people below you, you tend to kind of judge them, right? And that's where millennials are a little bit more savvy. They're more woke in understanding this is actually abuse.
Wait, what is woke? Just for my audience who may not know, you know, woke.
Woke is just another term for saying you are realized in a sense.
Eureka moment, aha moments.
You had that aha moments, and you understand what is good, and you've drawn that line between this is good and this is bad, and
that self-awareness.
You know the difference between what is abuse and what is a bad practice, that kind of stuff. So,
okay,
I think they are a little bit more aware in that sense.
Yeah, and I think at the end, right, it's really different people grow up in different eras. And for me to impose my world, the way I grew up in, onto yours is not fair. But for you to also understand this is really my, how I grew up in, my life, my experiences. So, okay, now let's look at the positive sides, yeah? So, Veron, what are 2 values you think the boomer generation and the Gen X has to offer to the millennials and, you know, Gen X, Gen Z?
Well, I suppose we have to learn to realize that we are in a different world now.
Oh no, what are 2 things that you're proud of? You're proud of your generation. Like, this is something I'm very proud of.
She will struggle to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Observation. But go on.
No, for us, the baby boomers, we are very proud that we are always very loyal and in comfort zone, and we don't really job hop, and we are very, we are not so IT savvy. So we don't go and compare with so many other industry, how much they get paid and all that. We just do what we are supposed to do. And that's what my staff are doing right now. They every day come to work, they do what they're supposed to do, and they don't go and compare other spa, how much they are paid, other wellness center, how much they are paid. They don't do that, you know. So they are contented, they are loyal, they are faithful, they just do what they are supposed to do. Simple.
There's a simplicity in that one. Yeah.
And I want to draw this to what Vivek was saying, because just now when you were thinking, Vivek was saying she will struggle to say that. Why did you say that, Vivek?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what the baby boomers portray as qualities, or what we see as qualities, they see it as basic work ethics.
Yes,
this is basic what?
Yes.
This is what's already expected from me. So I don't see this as something to highlight. I don't see this as something to be specifically proud about. This is what's expected from me, this is what I'm being paid to do, and this is what I do.
Yes.
Whereas millennials are like, no, these are all the things I value add to you, and they are already articulating it on a very regular basis, either on social media or with their friends. So that's what I also noticed that she was thinking for a while, like, what do I say that's worthy of saying? Is this even worthy of mentioning, right? So that's
Is simplicity a virtue, a value?
It's such a given, and like what you were saying, right? I have an uncle who is like 90, in his 90s, and he said, you know, and it's even glorified, right? And I haven't missed a single day of work, even when I'm sick. Even when I have MC, I still go to work. You know, so that is such a given for them, because I think if I talk about the Maslow's hierarchy again, for the millennials to understand, if your survival is at stake, where if not going to work could mean that
you lose your job.
You lose your job.
Exactly.
Would you still go? You know, your conversation would be very different, right? While it may appear like it's abuse, but for them, it's responsibility.
Yeah, of course.
It's, you know, so it's seen very differently because of the era that we're growing up in.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about survivability as well. So back in those days, if you were very picky and choosy, then your chances of survival in getting a job would be hampered, right? So that's also one of the reasons why they were taking in this loyalty and this kind of traits as part and parcel of their work ethics. Yeah, they are proud to be loyal.
and I think, but the world has shifted. I mean, the truth is, last time it used to be, the status quo is this, don't rock the boat, just do as you're told. A lot of this kind of narratives, right? But today it's really about, hey, what are you about? What can I do differently? I mean, even in our generation, when we were growing up, it was a very few family restaurants, right? I mean, you only have Swenson and a few. Today, you go to the supermarket, look at the options. I mean, friends are popping up, boutique shops, you know. Anyone can be a business owner now with just a website. You don't even need a physical front, right? So I think the world has really drastically shifted so quickly in just 2 decades or less, right? Or, you know, that, you know, we are grappling with the different experiences each generation has gone through. So for you, Amanda, what is something that you're proud of the millennial generation?
I think we're problem solvers. You know, I mean, while there's that sense here, I mean, we've been talking about, you know, how we're so hard to manage, you know, how our expectations are so high. I think that there are a lot of positives in the millennial generation. I think a lot of us are problem solvers, you know, and if we feel connected to a company or we feel connected to a cause, we really give it our all, and we will be dogmatic and very fortuitous in solving the problem. We are also a flexible group of people, you know. This is a bit less, I've observed that this is a bit less harder to come by in the older generation. When you tell them to change their job scope, they're very resistant. Very resistant, you know. But for millennials, you're like, hey, okay, look, our company is going to go through this growth and change, and I'm going to need you to do a bit of shape shifting. You know, because of some crisis or because of you know, a change in direction, this is going to be your new role. I think it is easier to tell a millennial that than someone of the baby boomer generation.
In fact, I don't just think it's easy. I think the millennial take it on. They are happy because then you add variety to my otherwise routine.
I mean, you know, when COVID decimated our core business, right? Because we depend on groups, so we had to really shape shift. You know, we had to pivot. My entire team of millennials were happy to do that. Like, you know, from experiences, we started delivering food, right? Yeah, but nobody complained about the fact that now they've got to pack food and now they've got to dry food around, you know. Nobody complained about the fact, because then, you know, it becomes something that, okay, we're overcoming this challenge together. So I think we're shapeshifters. I think that flexibility you get in the millennial workers, not something that you will see in the baby boomer generation.
Actually, you said something that I want to point out too. I think in COVID, right, what you just shared is really a demonstration of that hardiness, of that survival.
Exactly.
So even
I don't think with strawberries. Yes.
No, but I think it really COVID created an opportunity for millennials to experience what is it like, because now it's about survival. You know, if the company doesn't survive,
absolutely.
so then they show. Let's roll up our sleeve. Let's do it. It matters. And I am able to. So I think even for themselves, they come to know themselves in a different way. It's not just about what I could have, but today, hey, survival. Hey, what my mom said is a reality. And I am in it.
Right? And that job that used to take 6 people, now you need to do it with 2 people. Because you just have to, because, you know, the margins are not the same. You know, the whole way that business is done is not the same, right? So we now take on like the job of like 3 people initially pre-COVID, but it's become the new norm, and I think that's why, you know, I really don't consider millennials that are in managerial or entrepreneurial positions, strawberries are all. I actually think that they are full of resilience, and I think that they have a lot to teach us.
It's just that I think, right, what COVID did is create the opportunity for that resilience to shine forth. Because resilience, when never tested, when there's no adversity, there's no resilience. Everybody is having a good time. Why do I have to show those muscles?
Absolutely true, yeah.
But the muscles are only built in a period where, hey, now it's crunch time. What can we do?
Yeah.
And then I think then the muscles are developed.
Yeah.
So it's not just talk, it's the opportunity for me to actually do something for a different personal experience.
Yeah.
So Vivek, how
Sorry,
do
that's
we...
precisely what happened to me. I'm a baby boomer, and during the COVID last year, during the lockdown, I was totally lost. I was totally lost because I'm very offline person. I depended on my son to help me with all the online stuff. Then when lockdown, I was at home. Okay, now what? My shop not open for 2 months. I still have to pay rental. I still have to pay the staff. I still have the stuff going on that I have to pay. Then I pivoted. I attended my son's Facebook marketing course for 2 days, and then I started implementing all the Facebook ads myself. And I tell people to download my ebook and then come and read my ebook and attend my webinar. So I pivoted I pivoted by instead of doing corporate talk offline, I did a webinar online, and from webinar how to sell. And then I applied for the MTI, the letter where I can go and do delivery. So during that 2 months became a blessing. I sell even more.
And Yvonne,
I reach out to even more people.
what I want to say, right, it is, what I'm hearing is it has to do with your mindset, your attitude.
Because
yes, no, not only that, but you, instead of being dogmatic and like, no, and
I'm
complaining.
just gonna wait until I get open as I was.
You chose, right, to fight, no. And so it's your attitude, right, your positivity that gave you that access to say, come, let's pivot. Let's look for ways to learn new things.
Yeah, so I attended his 2-day course. Whatever he teach, I implemented. So what? I was such a good student. He said, write book. I wrote a second book. Then he said, come up with your own website. I came up with my own website. He said, do ads, and then how much you can limit to your ads and all that. I did everything he taught, and then I survived. And then I even expanded.
Which is critical when we talk about the VUCA world, right? Where everyone is a learner. It's like the more we learn, and just yesterday we were talking about studies, right? Where we look at actually front-end loading, where you learn 20 years of your life, and then the next rest of your life you don't learn. It's a thing of the past. If we are going to be relevant, it's really lifelong learning, and the kind of learning is not go for course, is do apply. Application becomes the key, because it doesn't matter how much knowledge you accumulate in your head, it's how much you apply that makes you masterful at new skills. So wonderful. So Vivek, what is something that the boomer, the older generation can learn from millennials, and millennials from rich?
I think what millennials bring to the table is this form of agility, the ability to literally unlearn and relearn, and the willingness to do that, right? So they are willing to do things, especially when they are well managed and when they really are passionate about the place they work in, very, very engaged. They will actually unlearn and relearn really fast. You can go to them for ideas. They are always brainstorming, and a really well engaged person really gives his 100% into the organization when they want to ask them for ideas and stuff. So that is something that I think the boomer generation and the older generations can learn from, right? And what I think that the millennials can learn from the boomers and the older generation is their sense of work ethics, right? It is basically about, I will to a point give my 100%, and work is more than just an exchange. It's about me showing up, right? And the key issue here is when they cannot show up, the younger generation tend to freak out because they don't know how to communicate about I'm having an issue, because, and I also think this is related to psychological safety. Like if I do say something that you won't like to hear, will I be harassed or scolded for it? So there's a little fear about that. So what they can do is to really pick up the work ethics about being able to communicate clearly and have a better understanding of the non-verbals and have difficult conversations with the leaders that they are working with the team that they're working with. I think this is something that the older generation has really mastered, to be able to have the communication. But also another point, like what she mentioned, right? Don't wear a toxic workplace as a badge of honor as well, right? To learn to draw the line where like I think even last year there was news about these 7 employees that didn't want to take up job offers even in a pandemic because what they felt was being offered to them is not fair enough, right? So all of this is basically them wanting to negotiate and ask for something better, and also learning how to draw that line between abuse and something that's fair. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that they can learn from one another.
Wonderful. So in because a large portion of our viewers are actually parents, right? I think I want to conclude with how we can speak in communication. What is something that you feel the boomers can communicate? Is something that you want to say to the Gen X? No, not Gen X. Sorry, the millennials. What's a communication that you
Like
you
my
want?
son, like I communicate with my children.
Yes, how do we
Yeah.
communicate more effectively so that the good intention
Yes.
is lands properly?
Yeah, my son happened to be an entrepreneur, and for me, communicating with him is always very business centric. When we go for dining, we are at home, we talk about we bounce ideas over dinner table, we bounce ideas when we go spa together, and we bounce ideas anywhere, anytime. And so because he is an entrepreneur himself, and he will also want to help see my blind spots. So he is actually my business coach. Yeah, so that's why our communication is very open and very transparent and very much business centric.
Veronica, even as I hear you speak, I think you are for me, or rather this panel, really, right, Vivek,
yeah.
you are someone who's very open. And that's why it's so easy for you to continue to reinvent yourself, your
Yes.
business, because you don't have fixed ideas. But it seems the skill set of the millennials to unlearn, to really release what you taught and to really learn and embrace new skill set is why you are thriving. Your business is thriving. I mean, I heard you have a second shop now,
Yes,
right, in the
yes.
midst of COVID.
In the midst of pandemic.
Yes, you actually have your second shop.
Yeah.
So I think COVID, like what we all know, presents opportunities, right? And you have taken on the opportunity. So while some see it as, but for you, because of your attitude, right, you have grown.
And to be humble that he is my coach.
Yeah.
He's younger than me, but I attend his class. I'm his student. It's fine, A mother is his
A
student.
lot of baby boomers have a problem with that. Though. A lot of them
Yes.
do.
It's fine. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I think that if more boomers had that approach like you, then we wouldn't have that gap so much. But a lot of them are very, very they're very egoistic. They want to their way or the highway, right? It's very hard to talk to people of a certain generation sometimes and to say that, hey, I really think that this is a better idea. Let's just try it. Let's just try it. We don't have to take it if it doesn't work, but let's just try it. But it's like, oh, I definitely know better than you. I'm 70 years old.
And that's why.
I eat more salt than you eat more rice.
And that's why the phrase "Okay, Boomer" came about, right? "Okay, Boomer" is a phrase that millennials use when they give an idea and like, no, this won't work. Then what millennials say, "Okay, Boomer, I'm not going to argue with you because I know there's no way I'm going to change
exactly.
your mindset." And they notice a fixed mindset there, and then they're like, okay, if I continue this way, I know where this is going to end. It's not going to be a productive use of my time trying to convince you. So that "Okay, Boomer" phase actually came out because of this.
Okay, I'm just going to say okay because I can't change your mind, right?
But my son is also observing me. He also have a lot of respect for me that I'm very loyal. Because if I have a masu, I will go to that masu no matter where she is. I will go around with her. That kind of thing. So she say I'm never a loyal person. I will go to anyone I like anytime. But he realized that I'm very loyal. Even to outsiders. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Menda, I want to ask you, right, in communication, right, because a lot of our viewers are parents. How do we communicate to understand the millennials better? So for example, let's use his example. Let's say, the family financial situation is not comfortable. And instead of going out to look for a job, my child is saying, no.
I want to go and, upgrade my skills or go and travel and all that. Yeah.
Or study more.
I mean, I can see how that really is an issue. And I think while effective communication, verbal, face-to-face, I think that is uncomfortable for a lot of younger people. For very big sensitive issues like that, I don't think it can be avoided. You can't really have a serious conversation over text because the body language is missed, and the sort of maybe the gravity of the situation is sort of lost, but I think on the other hand, there is also a way to communicate. Sometimes with millennials, they need space. Yes, communicate with me. Let's have this conversation, but then give me a bit of time to internalize it. Give me a bit of time to actualize what is expected of me, and don't micromanage me. Don't breathe down my neck. Yes, I know that you want me to achieve A, B, C, D within this time frame. Okay, check back with me after a few weeks or like in a month or so. Let me internalize it and see what's the best. And I will tell, at least for me, I will tell you if something is not actionable or doable. Don't expect me to report to you like every single day. I think that form of communication is seen as micromanaging, and it's nagging. It's difficult. I'm not a parent, but I imagine if I were, I'll be very tempted to keep wanting to keep talking my child to death. But I think space must be given. Space is part of the communication.
Wonderful. I love what you say. In space
Yeah.
is part of the communication,
It is.
because very often parents think if you're not doing what I ask you to do, there's a communication gap, and then they keep repeating.
Yeah.
But I
I've
think
heard you,
when-
Mom. I've heard you. Thank you.
But I think when parents get right that space is also my form of saying I love you. That
Yeah.
itself is a powerful communication, and then just trust that my kids will decide whatever they decide, even if it's not what I would ideally prefer. It is still a choice that's being made. So I think space is a communication. The quietness, silence. Vivek?
I think when parents are communicating with millennials, one of the key things they need to do is to listen to understand rather than listen to respond. A lot of parents, when they listen, they hear the first sentence just forming only, I know what's your problem, and then they diagnose, you are just to this, and that. That is because they don't have the coaching mindset. And I think this is something that in today's day and age, everyone will benefit from, which is to learn how to listen to understand rather than to listen to respond. And that means giving you the space to really complete your sentence, finish your thoughts out, right? And then wait and pause for me to respond to that. And then think about how I want to respond to it based on what I think about those things. And it also means having a mentor approach rather than I have authority over you, boss kind of an approach, which means I may also make mistakes, but I think based on whatever I have experienced, these are some things you can consider, and if they're going through some kind of issues. But the moment that a person feels understood, the moment they feel listened to, which I think is severely lacking in families and in the workplace, people will actually be more willing to accept, whatever it is that you have to offer in terms of knowledge, advice, or even, getting things done, right? So whatever the medium, whether you're texting the person or whether you are having in-person conversations, if you're able to establish that you're going to listen first, understand first before you respond and ask something out of somebody, it will actually make a huge difference in the way the parent and the child relationship matures.
Wonderful. I love what you say, and I'm going to dig deeper. But let's go to the Gen Z, right? When we talk about the Gen Z, you like what you identified now, they're not comfortable to even have difficult conversations. So even if I give you the time and space, you will probably avoid it and never have it. So how does a parent coax or encourage communication, like really open communication, especially for the difficult topics?
So the Gen Zs are very acutely aware of awkward silences. Especially when someone picks up a phone while you're having a meal together, it becomes an awkward silence because they have nothing to do. So what do? They also pick up their phone, right? And they look into the phone because they don't know what to do in that specific period and time. So the key thing to do is to have an activity that you're doing together, like having a walk in the park and then doing the talk, so that there is no space for awkward silences to pop up. Sometimes when we say something difficult, it's hard for us to have an immediate response, and it is even better if we give them the space to think about it. But in that time when you're saying something difficult, you want people to have something to do. So when you're having a walk, right? It allows you to have a bit of a distraction, think about what's being said, and then allow you to continue the conversation.
Rather it's like face-to-face,
yeah,
at
exactly.
a
If it's
table,
face-to-face,
it's like interrogation.
It's like an interrogation.
Yeah,
It feels very scary. Then that's one thing that we don't want to impose on the Gen Z.
think
So
that's a strawberry.
giving that
think that's a strawberry right there.
environment, giving them the right environment to feel comfortable to speak up, and at the same time avoid those kind of awkward silences will actually build the understanding between both parties.
I'm just wondering, I like that because it creates a we kind of like we are doing this together, not like a line across and then across, right?
I'm against you.
My other question is it because the Gen Zs grow up in this always on world where constantly, whether it's flickering image, it's that constantly stimulated mind, and that's why when the silence is like, the sound of silence is so foreign, and I'm so uncomfortable with it. Is that?
Yeah, people are typically uncomfortable with silence.
Across all generations. Yeah, I would agree.
Right? It is because they are, and usually it is when it's a difficult conversation, silence is even more deadlier. It sounds heavier.
It's louder.
It's louder.
I hear you. It's more
right?
jarring.
You feel the silence. So it makes them feel very uncomfortable. So the reason why Gen Zs avoid kind of these difficult conversations is because it makes them feel uncomfortable and they want to avoid it at all costs. Right? All difficult conversations come with the experience of it's very uncomfortable, and they don't know how to lead it in a way that can go into a positive manner. So that's why these coaching mindsets and skill sets would really help parents to guide the conversation to a place where that is not bad, but rather something good happens out of this.
Thank you so much. I love what you're sharing because I think why Gen Zs, millennials, they decide to clamp up is because I think, to be honest, the boomer and maybe even the Gen X have been so top down our whole life because of what was experienced, right? That unconsciously we mirror that. But from what I'm hearing, right, which is literally, the slogan of Mumspace, it's a mentor, every mother a mentor. And the word we chose is a mentor, where I am a mentor. So for example, if let's say my relationship with my spouse, I'm thriving in the area, but I'm struggling with regards to my children, then you could then be a mentor to me. So it's not just mentor first to our own children, where we come with suggestions. And this is suggestion, is not an imposed idea that you must take. It's just shared experiences, right? But it's also peer mentorship, where we talk about then let's come together as a community to then glean from everyone's collective wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been a most amazing panel session because I think we've delved deeply into different generations, and what started as I think we've covered boomer, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z. We didn't go to alpha, that generation. But otherwise, I trust that you've heard, while each generation has been brought up differently and with different experiences, I think the one tool is this. All it takes is just creating safe spaces of communication, where even if we don't understand the other person, we are slow to judge. In fact, we don't ever, but we come from a space of understanding, truly seeing through their eyes, hearing and experiencing what they are. And I think in that, right, is where connections are formed, right? Because the saying, I don't care how much you know, until I know how much you care. So viewers, I trust that you thoroughly enjoyed today. Tomorrow will be another last day actually of a very intentional 3-panel session where we define professional success, where we look at the different, I think we focus on what your personal life goals are. Yeah. So with that, thank you so much. And I will hand you over to Charlene to give away the prizes. See you tonight.
Really an insightful session, wasn't it? I enjoyed myself and I hope you did. Thank you very much for staying on and being here to listen with us and with the panelists on a Saturday afternoon. So we have some prizes to give away right now. The first prize is by Veronica. She's giving the engineer pillows, which gives you lots of energy. Like when after you wake up, you get lots of energy. If you like that, key in pillow in the comments. The other prize she's giving is she'll be giving 5 of those, which is the echograph energy analysis. So I asked her, what is it about? And she mentioned it's actually about 10 meridian points that they will actually do an analysis on. And from there, they can actually see how they can boost up your energy from your Dantian. So if you like that prize, key in energy in the comments. The other prize we have that is generously sponsored by Vivek would be this book over here that I have. It is the Whatever It Takes book of entrepreneurs, stories of grit, courage, and unyielding spirit. If you like this book, key in courage. We thank you very much for being with us today, and we hope to see you tonight at the marketplace where we have the Working Mothers Indulgences. There'll be flash deals, wonderful, amazing stage time, more information from our exhibitors to share with you and give you more knowledge. We'll see you tomorrow as well at 10 a.m. So see you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Enjoy uninterrupted videos with YouTube Premium and get into what you're into with ad-free, offline and background play. Try YouTube Premium on us.
Thank you.